Hi everybody, and it's JJ, and we're back again for another ASUS PCDIY live stream. It's been a little bit. Thanks everybody, of course, for being patient with me. Of course, I was out the last couple of weeks, although we did, of course, do the ASUS graphics card stream, which if you guys are not checking that out, make sure to check that out, which happens now on Thursdays. And it's actually also an opportunity to be able to actually meet one of our latest and greatest team members with Team ASUS, and that's going to be Jake, who's actually owning a lot of our kind of, I'd say, execution for kind of social strategy and engagement when it comes to ASUS NVIDIA graphics card based solutions. So if you guys haven't checked out that stream, make sure to go ahead and check it out. We've got a lot of cool stuff planned, giveaway opportunities, a lot of great content, and you guys can also check out the corresponding new social handles that we have on that side. We've got already a few people joining us here on the stream. Let's see who we got joining us. We've got everybody from Sue Min is joining us here on the stream. As always, man, fantastic to have you here. We've got VTOR, man, thanks so much for joining us on this Friday. Erica, always fantastic to have you here so much, and always appreciate letting us know that the audio is good. We've got Christopher joining us. We've got Poor Greek Builds, awesome builder. If you guys haven't checked out his stuff, HO Computers, another fantastic builder. Jack Quas, hopefully I'm saying that correct. Hey, how you doing, man? Thank you so much. And another friend from up north there with Michael. Very, very cool. Oh, we got Paskowitz. Can't forget about Paskowitz. All right. Let's go ahead and make sure to go ahead and include him. Hey. And we've got the one, the only DePoets, another fantastic builder, great creator. If you guys aren't checking him out on all his socials, make sure to go ahead and check him out. TikTok, YouTube, all that great stuff. A great individual, and definitely gives you an opportunity to learn a lot more in a really cool and engaging way. So let's get ready to go ahead and jump in through a lot of different things. We've actually got a lot of updates because as I noted, I haven't had a PCDIY stream, and I think in a couple of weeks. I think the last one actually was at the end of January. So we've got a bunch to distill down from kind of the end of January to where we are now. So we're definitely be tackling not only new product introductions, but a couple of important updates, as well as, of course, actually a giveaway that we currently have going on. And hopefully at the end of all of it, we're going to be able to jump into the PCDIY Builder Spotlight, be able to check out some of the awesome and amazing builds you guys submit as part of our ASUS PCDIY enthusiast community. So let's get ready to go ahead and kick things off as just a little bit of a quick primer for those of you joining us on the stream in terms of wondering what we're going to be jumping into. We do have it in the show notes, but I'm going to go ahead and just touch on quickly just some of the items that we are going to be touching on today, and then we'll get ready to kind of keep moving things along. So first and foremost, we are going to be touching on some of these new products. So we've got the brand new GTX 650 Dual, which is going to be a refresh and update in terms of actually our GPU lineup there in the entry space. We've got the Dual RTX 3060. There's actually going to be a white and a black base model. So those are going to be actually refreshes and updates that are going to be available. The ROG CLAYMORE II, which some of you might be like, hey, JJ, haven't you guys already released this keyboard? And we actually have, but this is going to be an updated version. Right now, all of our other ROG keyboards come with default with PBT keycaps. When the CLAYMORE II originally launched, it didn't come with PBT keycaps. So this is what we call like a running change or a soft transition. So the new model will come with PBT keycaps. And for those that you did already pick up in CLAYMORE II and you're wondering, hey, can I get ROG PBT keycaps? We will actually be bringing in essentially a PBT keycap set that you will be able to go ahead and purchase and put on your CLAYMORE II if you want. We've got the ROG THOR P2. P2 means it's the second generation, of course, is the follow-up from the first generation Thors, 1200 watt, and then we've got the ROG Cosmic Bomber jacket. In addition to that, we also, of course, have a couple of other updates from, I think, the week prior, which if you guys are part of our PCDIY group, you guys find out about that. So we've got the ROG STRIX XG27AQ. That's just a great update in terms, I think, of a sweet spot gaming monitor that a lot of you guys are going to be a fan of. We've got the ROG STRIX Z790-A. This is going to be the DDR5 version. So it pretty much follows all the great features and functions and specs that we have on the DDR4 version, which launched, but now we're going to have a DDR5 version. And I don't have it in here, this image, but there is also going to be a tough gaming DDR5 version that we're going to touch on quickly. We've got a great option here for the entry side of those that are going to be considering Wi-Fi 6 with the RTAX57, which also does support our AI mesh technologies, and then the RPAX58, which is going to be a really low-cost, easy option if you're looking to be able to extend or essentially repeat your Wi-Fi signal. And we'll talk a little bit about how like a repeater extender differentiates itself from, let's say, something like a mesh node, because while they both help to add coverage, they work differently in terms of actually how they provide you additional signal coverage. Beyond that, that, we also, of course, don't want to forget about if you guys, of course, checked out a great stream that we have yesterday, and you can definitely check it out. But we did make announcements for the latest generation ASUS W series based motherboards. And so those W-based motherboards are based on the W790 based chipset. And on the W790 chipset, I've got two, I think, right here. Yeah, let me go ahead and bring these up right here. We will touch on these just a little bit. So these are, of course, our latest in generation ASUS W790 based motherboards. So if you're looking to take advantage of essentially a platform that is really designed for a high number of cores and threads, you're looking for massive PCI lane support, ultra high memory density configurations, and rich connectivity and expansion support, then these boards definitely might be options for you. So I've got a little bit more information here, but we have a full kind of live stream that we already did yesterday with a first look preview, and there'll be more information coming out on these in the not too distant future. So we've definitely got quite a bit of a packed show to jump into here. Very, very cool. So let's see. Hey, Connor, fantastic, man. Thanks so much for joining us here on the stream. Somebody asking about a future GPU. You just have to always just watch our social channels, be part of the PCDIY group, and definitely when there's a new product to announce, we'll definitely be touching on it. But as of right now, the highest end GPU you can buy on the ASUS side of the fence is going to, of course, be a 4090. So we do, of course, have our white edition 4090s. We got our standard 4090s, and we have the tough gaming 4090 based graphics cards. All right, guys. So let's go ahead and first jump into, let's see here. Bring up my show notes here. And give me 1 second. All right. So the first thing I do want to go ahead and touch on, guys, is just going to be a quick I'd say a service and support announcement. So if you guys are not part of our ASUS PCDIY community, you guys haven't seen maybe this update, but we do want to let users know about this. So right now you can go ahead and actually check out the link. I will go ahead and drop it into the chat. If you are a Maximus Z690 Formula owner, we do have a community service post announcement, which essentially helps to outline some additional information that you're going to want to be aware of if you are taking advantage of the integrated EK Cross Chill VRM water block solution. We have gone ahead and already worked with our service support team to essentially provide them all the information they need, and they can assist you if you run into any issues in terms of the integration of that within your loop. So please feel free to go ahead and reach out to them. We do have an actual dedicated, like I said, post that actually outlines this information. There's a service and support link, and again, also this link information, including actually all the relevant phone numbers, are available right now in the service and support website, as well as also, like I said, if you're part of our ASUS PCDIY community, I have kind of hot links there to the My ASUS app, which you can use to actually initiate service support with our support team. There's actually links for live chat. You can do it through email, or there's also, if you're in the US, if you're somebody that's maybe outside of the US and checking out a stream, thank you so much. But the phone number that I have listed, of course, in terms of the PCDIY group is applicable for North America. So just keep in mind that if you're outside of the US in a different region, you want to make sure to contact ASUS service and support in your region. Okay. All right. Hey, Mods by Men. I think this is the first time that we're having you join the stream. So thank you so much for actually stopping by. Appreciate it. And you guys, if you guys not aware, we've got actually a very cool giveaway that actually perfectly segues into this next point of this conversation right here. So we're going to actually get ready to jump into that pretty much right off the bat. So let's go ahead and jump into the next point right here. So giveaways, let's see what we got going on. Well, to kind of kick off a Valentine's Day, we did actually something that was pretty cool here. So actually you see it right there. There's Ben right there. And he actually worked, of course, with his wife, Christina, and they actually put together a build. And we were really kind of, excited to be able to have a cool opportunity to allow the community of PCDIY and builders to, I think, express their experience with, individuals that have supported them and been part of their life in positive ways. And so we essentially have kind of this Share the Love giveaway event. And that's what all you need to do is pretty much you can head over to the link. You can give us a little bit of information about what, what's kind of your support. What's your kind of love story that you have, whether it's with a friend, family, colleague, maybe it's a furry buddy. It doesn't matter, right? Everybody has a different experience when it comes to the relationships that help to empower them and bring positivity in their life. And we'd love to have you kind of share that. There's actually a couple of great pieces too that you guys can check out. You can actually head over to our ASUS North America YouTube channel and actually find out about the build experience that Ben had with Christina, where they actually put together this absolutely beautiful system. You can see right here, it's in our brand new Tough Gaming GT502 chassis. It's got some great ASUS white component hardware right there. Of course, you see with a ROG STRIX 30 series based graphics card. It's got an ROG STRIX based motherboard, some really beautiful clean bends. Of course, that's a hallmark of Ben's work that he does right there. And you can see the whole spec right there. So what, GT502, a Z790-A, a 12700 in terms terms of the processor, 3090, 1 terabyte crucial PCIe NVMe drive, and then 32 gigabytes of Team Force Delta memory. And all you got to do is just go through the little Gleam applet and be good to go. So I think there's 2 days left. Yeah, 2 days left, guys. So if you want to get in on it, make sure to go ahead and take a little bit of time and drop in your entry. And best of luck to you. And looking forward to hearing your guys' stories. Okay. So let me go ahead and drop that link there in the chat as well. Yeah, so somebody asking right here, that case, yes, that is going to be, let me see right here. I'm on a separate system, so I don't actually have all the images, but I'm pretty sure I've got my GT502 images on here. But that is essentially our new split chamber based chassis design. So we actually have it in white and black. It is currently actually available. So you can pick that up right now if you're interested in. And we have kind of talked about it on the stream. I'm hoping to do maybe a live build in the not too distant future if you guys want to check it out. But let me see right here. Yep, I've got it. Okay, here we go. So this is the GT502. You can see it's got a really cool, clean, stylized design, has a little bit of subtle embossing right there that's on the front, a little bit of an RG logo. Some of the really cool things that we did compared to some of the other split chamber chassis is, I think, a high level of attention to detail here, where, you know, all the grommets right here, they're not black, they're like this soft gray. In addition, even all the internal cables, they're all white. And to my knowledge, there's no other chassis that they've even taken the time to make sure that all the internal cables are white. It's got a little bit of an additional lift there for even more airflow spacing down there at the bottom. You can fit a massive amount of fans. You can do 360 here, 360 here. You can do fans here. The real interesting part of this chassis is also, while it's not maybe the primary orientation configuration, you can actually do fans on the back, so on the other side of the chassis. It does also fully support vertical and horizontal based mounting, so you're good to go, and fully supports 40 series graphics cards with no issues. So unlike maybe something like an 011 where there's a little bit of compression and you can run into issues with the cable, there's no compression issues in that regard. So again, if you want to go horizontal, you want to go vertical, you can go either configuration. The straps that are up there at the top are entirely functional, so you can actually lift the chassis. Has a really nice kind of pop-off design to allow you to get quick and easy access. You can see this pop-off radiator option right here where you can install storage, you can install fans, you can do a radiator, you can do a lot of different type of configurations. And if you guys join the PCDIY group, you can find already a couple of different people that have done builds in it. Sue Min, who's joining us here in the chat, has done a build in it. Mr. Matt Lee has done a fantastic build in it also as well. You've got the build there from Ben. You also have Daniel Kuba did an amazing build where he actually modded. He took a white and a black one and he merged them together and he created a system called the Recycler. So it's all very, very cool. And it's only about a $10 price delta between the black and the white models. And you can get those right now. So you can pick them up at the ASUS store, or you can pick them up at, you know, Amazon or Newegg or different e-tailers. Okay. So somebody says, not sure that the link worked. Okay, yeah, if you can go ahead and double check on that link, let me know. I can go ahead and maybe see if I can drop the dedicated giveaway link. So give me 1 second here. Let me see if that works here. Okay, all right, that should be okay. So I checked it on my side, it should be all right. Serendipity, right, Mr. Matt Lee? Yeah, so we were just talking about actually the GT502, and I was actually just giving a little bit of a plug of that awesome build that you, of course, did not too long ago within the GT502, which also helps to show the really great ecosystem experience within the Tough Gaming hardware. So if you guys are interested in getting in on that giveaway, make sure to get in on that. It's, I think, a great giveaway opportunity to be able to not only share your story, but have the chance to win some awesome hardware, right, guys? All right, so let's go ahead and keep moving things along. We've got a little bit of some partner news. So partner news, we did recap this actually in yesterday's GCS stream, but I just wanted to go ahead and touch on it again. Now, our ASUS graphics cards, they're really industry leading, cool, quiet, fast graphics cards, and I think a large degree of the value is definitely to kind of keep the thermal solution that we have on our cards. So that means thermal solution is the heatsink and the fan assembly within the graphics card. But definitely for those of you that are enthusiasts and are looking to maybe do water cooling, liquid cooling based setups, then you may want to know about options. And so we do like to try to highlight our partners that do have options available. So Alpha Cool with their AceBar 2 has gone ahead and released actually compatibility notice that they will be supporting our Asus ROG Strix 4090 and Tough Gaming 4090 and ROG Strix 4080 based graphics cards with this. The interesting thing here is, as opposed to, let's say, just a traditional water block, this is actually an AIO solution, so it's kind of self-contained. So you know, Jake actually made a great point, and I agree with him there, is that this could be a good option that for maybe a little bit more compact builds where you don't have as much space, because one of the definite factors that you have with the larger Asus graphics cards, whether it's the Tough Gaming graphics card or the ROG Strix card, is the length of the card can potentially obstruct it from fitting in smaller chassis. There's definitely a large number of chassis that can fit them without any issues, but if you're in a more compact chassis, you might have difficulty maybe being able to fit that in there. Since the PCB is much smaller, water cooling the GPU, liquid cooling it, can actually allow you to kind of fit that in a little bit more elegantly, and also mechanically, right? You won't run into a mechanical obstruction. You do have to account for the large, of course, radiator, right? So you have a 360 mount radiator configuration, and definitely within that more constrained chassis, do you even have the option to do like a dual radiator, especially if you're doing an AIO for the CPU. But maybe you're going for something more basic on the CPU, maybe a tower-based heatsink, which is definitely fine for something, you know, like a 13700K. You could entirely run that, and maybe you just want to have that GPU liquid cooled to be able to have that lower temperature and, you know, higher sustained clock speeds, whatever it might be. It's a very cool design. You still get the RGB lighting and accents, and that is still compatible with Asus Aura Sync. So it's a pretty cool little addition there. And again, just a quick note that we wanted to be able to touch on there in terms of partner news. So if you want to keep that in mind, it is an alternate option. For most of you, I think you're probably aware in terms of our graphics card solutions, what they look like, right? But let me go ahead and just bring it up in terms of reference, right? Here, you know, this is what you would be talking about by default. If you had something like our 4080 or 4090, they're going to pretty much look identical. It's a large triple fan based design. Again, I don't, you know, in my opinion, I don't think it necessarily would, you know, it's definitely not required, because the thermal performance you hear is outstanding, especially on the Strix edition. It has a custom what's called milled vapor chamber, which is even more advanced than the standard vapor chamber design, which is on the Tough Gaming model. But hey, if you want to be able to have a little bit more flexibility within your build, then that's an option. And again, you know, the big cards that tend to be focused within our lineup that are usually going to be water cooling compatible are going to be the ROG Strix and the Tough Gaming series. And then generally, if you look at models like, let's say, like the Dual series or the KO series, those usually are not going to feature water cooling compatibility. All right, let's go ahead and keep moving things along there. All right, very, very cool. UEFI BIOS announcements. I'm still playing catch up on a couple of things. I haven't seen any specific UEFI BIOS announcements for this week, although we should be coming very shortly with them. But I do want to actually touch on a wide issued update that we just started rolling out last week, and that will continue to be rolling out to actually more and more motherboards. So let me go ahead and bring this up for one of the models here. Okay. And we will get to this touching. So this is going to predominantly be focused for, I would say, AMD-based users in terms of this update. So if you guys are aware, essentially there's something that is called AGISA. AGISA is essentially kind of the parent or master firmware that's issued by AMD, and it handles a lot of different aspects in regards to how the CPU operates, especially in conjunction with the motherboard. Everything from memory code to how kind of the PCIe initialization works. It can handle aspects in terms of overclocking. There's a lot of different variables that get influenced as AGISA gets updated. Now, the AM4 platform as a whole right now is very, very mature. So you're generally not talking about kind of large level performance improvements. The last major AGISA updates were generally designed for interoperability and compatibility improvements, especially related towards USB. So if you might have maybe had a system where you experienced maybe potential like USB dropout or polling or initialization type issues, then you could have updated to a newer AGISA. And that kind of had broad scale rollout actually in last year in 2022. But maybe if you never updated to that, this would be inclusive of this, along with just continued kind of refinement and enhancement. So if you're interested in doing it, like always, all you need to do is just head over to our service and support website. Take for instance here, I'm looking at the Crosshair 8 Hero. There's actually a Wi-Fi and not a Wi-Fi model, so you always want to make sure that you're taking a look at the correct model within your lineup, right? Switch over into the BIOS and firmware tab, select that, and you can actually see right there, update AGISA version combo 1.2.0.8. Okay, so that is going to be, and we rolled that out. I think if we check the post, let me see if I can bring up the actual post within our Asus UEFI BIOS announcement. And also, it's a great way to actually let you guys know about our Asus PCDIY group, because generally every week I will post these UEFI updates in the group, so you have visibility that if you want to know what the latest updates are, what they're going to be introducing, new features, new functions, things along those lines, then you can definitely make sure to join the group. So right here, you can see I actually have a post right here. It says new BIOS announcements, right? There were some for the B760 chipset, X370, X470, X570, B350, B450, and B550, right? So quite a number of boards, and you'll see that I have a whole post that literally shows every single of the motherboards with all the corresponding numbers. And there's a whole FAQ guide here too that kind of outlines a lot of common questions like, should I update the UEFI? Will it affect overclocking? Is it compatible with old settings and new settings? All those questions are answered. So really, I can tell you that probably 90% of questions that I get, if somebody reads through that FAQ, you're going to get your questions answered. So yeah, if you're interested, head over to the PCDIY group and check that out, and you'll be good to go. All right, so that is going to continue to see broad deployment over about the next, let's say, 2 to 3 weeks for the remaining AM4 boards that have not seen that AMD Agiso 1.2.0.8 base release. Okay. Mods by Ben notes, if it only came with quick disconnects. So actually that ice bar does actually have a quick disconnect. So that's actually kind of one of the specific things within AlphaCool's design. I mean, in reality, I love quick disconnects. I use them a lot, and they're only starting to see kind of I think a resurgence in water cooling. They were kind of passe, or maybe not as many builders use them for some reason. I mean, there weren't as many manufacturers that make quick disconnects. Like I know when I first got into the game, one of the only places you get it from was like Coolants was one of the manufacturers that kept it, and there were many other companies that weren't actively making quick disconnect based options. But I loved it because from a test bed standpoint, I could literally just take it off of my block, bam, and switch it. But I've also been somebody that's always more practical in terms of my water cooling than an aesthetically focused, right? Which is why I still prefer soft tubing than hard tubing. But that is kind of one of the cool things with the ice bar, is that they give you the ability to actually have a disconnect option. And I think that's also because they allow you to refill the coolant in there. You'd have to double check on the spec information, but I do believe that that is the case there. So pretty cool, interesting right there. Somebody asking about ROG Elite rewards. I know there's some maintenance and transition that's happening that's actually handled by our global team, but if you have any issues or concerns that might come up in terms of ROG Elite rewards, you can actually head over to the portion that says contact us, and there's a dedicated email just for the ROG Elite rewards team. So if you run into something and you want to make sure that they're aware of it, they probably already are, but if you want to make sure to give them visibility, you can go ahead and use that email to be able to provide them contact. So I would recommend that. H-Show Computer says, yeah, quick disconnects are neat. I've used the coolants ones a few times. Yeah, I loved coolants. They were definitely one of my favorite manufacturers. Build quality was great. I loved kind of the simplicity. Definitely when we started to see the RGB transition era, they really never kind of integrated into that. But, there are tons of really great partners that exist right now in terms of water cooling solutions, liquid cooling solutions, from Fantex to Bits Power, right? Excuse me, to, Fantex Thermaltake, right? There's, Optimus, right? So many different companies, right? So you can kind of pick whatever you think works kind of best for you, right? All right. So let's go ahead and go into the next portion right here. Yeah, I'm not sure when you might have mailed them, but again, I would, that's the dedicated contact email. If for some reason you think maybe there's not being responsive, you can go ahead and email me, PCDIY@asus.com, and I can see if I can maybe relay that to my team, but it's not generally under my purview. But, definitely we'll try to see if we can make sure that if you're, like I said, running into a specific point of concern, try to make sure that we're addressing that and make sure that you're being taken care of. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and see what next we got. I think we probably got new products that I think we were going to probably get into. Let me see right here. Okay, so yeah, the giveaways. Okay, yeah, I think we're going to go straight into just touching on some of these new products, and we will go from there, guys. So let's go ahead and get into it here. All right, so let me see here. Let's do the bomber jacket first, just to do something a little bit different from the norm, and then we'll get into the rest of the details right here. Okay, so again, we're going to be talking about this guy right here. This is just our ROG Cosmic ROG Cosmic, and if you didn't know, we currently have, I don't know if it's sold out, if we still had it, but we have a very cool, I've actually worn it before, but it's the ROG Cosmic hoodie sweatshirt that is really, really cool. And here, this is a follow-up with the ROG Cosmic bomber jacket. And so there's some cool things about it. And again, if you're not aware, we do actually have a really nice line of apparel that's quite diverse. We've had everything from kind of full sweaters to sweatshirts to jackets to, of course, t-shirts, hats, you know, all kinds of kind of different types of items, and they are generally on a limited production run. So it's kind of one of those things that if you do want to get in on them, I would recommend getting in on them when you can. Okay, so let's go ahead and just take a little bit of a closer look right here. I don't remember if I put a little banner right there, but let me go ahead and do that. So this is going to be the ROG Cosmic. And I'm going to go ahead and talk to maybe our team here and see if I can maybe get one or two of these and maybe give them away in the PCDIY group. So again, incentive, if you guys are part of our PCDIY group, maybe you can get your own ROG Cosmic bomber jacket. Okay. All right. So really, really cool design. It's black. So it's of course going to go with everything. You can get it in varying sizings right here. It's a nice, clean kind of, I'd say, standard cut. So it's not excessively large or baggy right there. It's nice as a kind of a layered design, especially right now as we're coming kind of at you know, that winter fall type vibe, and then you're going now into spring. It's a good kind of transitional layer piece that's going to be available that you can have. The outside is 100% nylon. So nylon, if you're not aware from a textile perspective, is a little bit more suited towards abrasion resistance, right? Which means that if it kind of rubs up against something, it doesn't necessarily tear. So that's a little bit better and more durable than if you had it be, let's say, like a poly base, so like a polyester. But nylon can be a little bit more abrasive. So that's the reason why on the inside is poly. So poly on the inside allows it to kind of be nice and smooth, feel really comfortable against your skin, or, you know, also really be smooth against, let's say, like a shirt that you might be layering underneath. And then on the outside, you've got the 100% nylon for resistance. You've got some really nice kind of design cues right here too, where these actually are able to be detached. So the hook and loop fasteners, there's actually 6 different look and hoop fasteners, and actually kind of swatches that come in there that you can kind of customize it and you can change it up. And you've also got a Tyvek label, which adds a little bit of a kind of cool accessory kind of feel to it. You do have some water repellency inherently because of the nylon shell. It's not waterproof, right? But you know, if you're getting caught in a little bit of kind of a sprinkle out there, you're going to be fine. I really love the back accent design right here with just the ROG eye and kind of a little, of course, a design that we have in there, throwing, of course, some cool things that we always put in terms of the ROG design Easter eggs, where you got elements like, of course, the coordinates, you know, 206 right there, helping to throw back to the year that ROG got established. You've got that cool little Tyvek label that is present right there. And right here, all of these can be removed, so you can actually change these out. So if you want the little pocket, if you want the little accenting, you can. The other cool thing too is I have like sometimes like maybe some different bags or backpacks that might have their own hook and loop fasteners. So you could take these and you can use those on their other items too. So you don't have to necessarily use them on your jacket, or same thing, if you've got other patches that you want to go ahead and utilize, you could swap those out. So you can see you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, excuse me, 4, 6, and then you've got 7 right here. Technically, that one's not a patch, so it's not part of the 6 there, but those are essentially all customizable, right? So you can take those off or you can put those on. It's entirely up to you. And this guy will be coming in exclusive to our ASUS eStore, so you can only buy it on the ASUS eStore. You won't be able to find it anywhere else. So just ASUS eStore under our apparel lineup, and I believe it will be coming in at $170. I will double check the pricing right now, but I think it's a pretty cool addition if you're looking for a little bit of ROG flair, a little bit of ROG swag. Great transition piece, right? So definitely make sure to go ahead and check it out. Let me double check here on the pricing for this guy. ROG jacket, bomber jacket. It's going to be, let me see. Yes, $170. That is going to be the price point for the ROG Cosmic bomber jacket. All right, let me see right here. Michael's asking what, assuming if he's asking time frame, it should be probably within the next, I'd say 7 to 14 days. Could even be maybe a little bit earlier than that, but definitely within the next 7 to 14 days. The big benefit for anything that's exclusive usually to the ASUS eStore is that kind of the downtime period that we have from it being received in terms of warehouse to, let's say, being listed as inventory is quite short. So it allows us to be really, really quick at being able to list a product. For other products, when I talk about them, they are much more dependent on terms of kind of of channel logistics. And so that means that the shipping, the processing time, the kind of account management, there's so many other variables that come into it. So some partners, you know, it can be maybe like, you know, 7 to 14 days for them to be able to list a product. And other partners, it can literally be sometimes like a month and a half once we release a product to them actually having them be listed in the channel. So it can be quite variable. So I would say though, you should be expecting this within about the next week to about week and a half. Okay. Oh, that's cool. We got some little feedback right here. The ROG asymmetry, and I love it, but I like this look nicer. Oh, very cool. Yeah, the asymmetry jacket was pretty sweet too right here. It looks like Sumin says he's going to be getting one. In terms of the cut, I think, to my knowledge, it's supposed to be a standard cut, but definitely double check your dimensions, you know, and you guys, if you are aware, we do actually have a free return process through the ASUS store. So pretty much they will send you a label. So if, you know, worst case scenario happens and maybe you need to transition from like a large to an extra large or something like that, it is a fairly straightforward process that you can work with you. So you can go on, you can say, hey, you know, this is my experience, this is my feedback. You know, maybe the sizing wasn't right or you didn't feel that it was right for you or something like that, and you can let us know. And definitely we're working with our team to try to expand some of the information that's listed on the site there too. So hopefully it's clear for you when you're looking to be able to pick things up like that. Okay. All right. Very, very cool. See anything else there? All right. Kevin Daly says, I'm assuming yes, please. So I'm assuming that he's talking about for the giveaway, right? Yeah. So yes, hopefully you'll be seeing more of that going on. So just make sure to keep it tuned and we will see what we can make happen. All right, guys. All right. Very, very cool. So let's go ahead and jump into our next item. We're going to touch on just quickly some GPUs. So let's get ready to touch on this guy right here. So we're going to talk about some graphics cards. All right, guys. Definitely not going to be the highest end graphics card by any stretch of the imagination. This is just a basic refresh right here, but we are going to be touching on this guy right here. So this is going to be the Asus Dual. So Dual is going to be, you know, usually one of our broadest series of cards, right? It goes everything from something like a GTX 1650 to where, you know, you can have a 3060, right? A dual graphics card. So it goes, you know, pretty big in terms of the actual lineup. Of course, these are going to be more of our compact based card design. So they're not going to be as large. So great for a wider range of builds. 1650, if you're kind of wondering about the performance target, also because you do have a lower amount of VRAM right here, 4 gigabytes, this is really well suited to maybe a transitional upgrade. So maybe you've got an older system, you'll just be able to look to support maybe a modern GPU, have multi-display output, have some competent esports gaming focus, and even be able to play a wide range of games. I mean, pretty much any game will install and be able to run on this. It works well, especially at 1080p with moderate to high settings. You can definitely see an overall average of about 55 to about 65 frames in a lot of game titles. So it's definitely competent in that regard, and it's not going to be super expensive, which of course is, I think, going to be the value add for people that might be on a more limited budget. So here you're going to be looking at a card that's going to be around, I think actually not around, but $175 or $180 for the graphics card. And there will be essentially two versions. There'll be an OC version, and then there will be a non-OC version. So right here, you can take a look, a little bit closer look at it. It's got a really kind of cool shroud to it. Some nice kind of black accents, right? Excuse me, some white accents right there, which complement, of course, the predominant design on the card, which is monochrome and black. I think looks really, really nice, clean. And you've got DP, HDMI, and DVI, and you're going to be good to go. So very, very straightforward. For people that wonder, hey, what's the difference between kind of the OC and the non-OC? Keep in mind, remember the OC version is just essentially a slight additional overclock that's factory validated on the graphics card, but you can overclock both cards, the standard and the non-overclocked version. So they're both entirely able to be overclocked. Choice is entirely up to you. And again, 175 is going to be for the standard, and then 180 is going to be for the overclocked version. So next up, we've got two 360 cards. So here we're going to be definitely stepping up quite a bit in terms of the overall performance because we're going to pretty much be doubling about the performance in terms of the graphics card. We're going to be moving up to a 3060, not the Ti. So we recently updated, and of course we have the 3060 Ti with GDDR6. A really, really great card, I think, especially for a lot of builders, especially around kind of 1440p gaming. Very, very competent in that regard. Here you take a little bit of step down. You have double though the VRAM, right? So you're going to be going up to 8 gigabytes with GDDR6, and you know, a 3060, you're going to definitely comfortably averaging high refresh rate gaming at 1080, and you can definitely even get into 1440p. Plus, you're going to be leveraging more new technologies that are available to you. So you have things like, you know, NVIDIA Broadcast. You're going to have support for RTX. You're going to have support for DLSS. You're going to have support for AV1 that will be present on the card. So a lot of really cool things, and also a very compact card. If we take actually a look at the dimensions, one of my favorite things specifically on this design is how compact it is. So you can see it's 7.87 by 4.84 in terms of inches, right? For those of you that are, of course, not in the US, that's 200 millimeters by 123 millimeters. So it's actually quite compact. So even if you're going for a more small form factor, medium form factor build, it works well. And it's a 2-slot based card. So it's quite compact, so it doesn't eat into additional slot spacing. And it only needs one single PCI Express power connector. So it's not very taxing when it comes to the overall power supply configuration. One note, in case anybody's wondering, the RGB is not controllable on the dual models, right? So you do have a fixed little RGB accent that is going to be present right there. But otherwise, it's cool, it's quiet, and definitely a nice option there. Now, if you want something that's going to be a little bit different, give you a little bit of kind of a bolder and brighter look, then we do also have the white edition. So white edition, I think I've got, pretty much you're going to be looking at the same card. It just will be in a white variant, right? So great, especially if you want to pair this with something like our Prime series motherboards like the B760 or maybe the Prime Z790 based motherboard, or maybe like a B series chipset, right, from the ROG STRIX side, right, that are also kind of be white and silver. I think this is a great kind of combination where you don't have to go super expensive. Pair this up with something like our AP201 chassis, and you can have a really nice, clean and compact and not super expensive, really nice looking white theme build. So if you like that kind of bold and bright aesthetic and you don't want to be super expensive, we now have got the 3060 in white. We have a 3060 Ti in white. We then also have the 4080 in white and the 4090 in white. So 4 different GPU solutions that are available to you in white. So across a number of different price points. So this one also has a really nice white backplate to the card. Same thermal solution. Going to keep the card cool and quiet, and you're going to be good to go, and you're going to be all set. So that is going to be the white edition. There is a little bit of a price delta between those two. So between the the black and the white, it's, I believe, approximately a $10 delta. That's correct, yeah. So the 3060 black is going to be $335, and then the 3060 white is going to be $345. So that's going to be your respective price points. I will go ahead and drop those links there in the chat for anybody that maybe is interested and maybe picking up one of these cards. And you should be seeing this pop up very, very shortly in terms of the overall availability. So you should be seeing them come up in the not too distant future. So let me go ahead and just put these in there, and we'll get that in there. And let me see if we had any questions that kind of quickly came up right in there. Somebody saying white, very nice. Yeah, it's really nice. I mean, we've spent a lot of effort to be able to have a very comprehensive white portfolio, and so see, I believe 360 is a sweet spot for 1440 and 1440 gaming and a very good price point. I would definitely agree with you. I think the 3060 Ti for 1440p gaming is a fantastic choice because you can drive high image quality and have a high refresh rate. If you want to be more aggressive and go and pair that up with something like our 240 or even a 360 hertz monitor, it's got enough performance to be able to even push those higher refresh rates at 1080p. I love the fact that it also gives you the modern media engine. So if you're going to be doing streaming and encoding, it's very capable. And also, if maybe you're not gaming, maybe you guys are just somebody that's looking for a card that's going to give you acceleration performance in different types of applications, whether you might be talking about like DaVinci Resolve, Lightroom, Photoshop, different types of applications, you can also utilize the NVIDIA Studio driver here and get ISV acceleration support. So I think this is a great card for those type of situations as well. So a really solid option there. And so it's nice to, again, be able to have, I think, the white option, the black option, right? And be able to kind of pick the mod that makes the most sense for you. So let me go ahead and finish dropping these here in the chat. And we've got one other right there, I think with the dual, right? Yeah, and that'll be the third black dual card. And let me just go ahead and see there. Any other questions right there? Does ASUS have a riser that would work with the 4090 Strix EK block with the active backplate? So we only have one riser cable, which is just our PCI Gen 3 riser cable. As far as working with, that's going to be really much more dependent on your chassis and your motherboard configuration, and so you have to look at a lot of other mechanical elements, right? The other thing too is there's no point to put an active backplate on a 4090. It's not required because of the way that the actual topology works on the graphics card. So I know that one is available. the realistic value proposition of whether or not you need it, that's really kind of a choice up to you. Maybe you're choosing it for aesthetics. There is a technical merit that you could say that you're maybe reducing some of kind of the substrate temperature, the PCB temperature, by having the active backplate on there. But overall, really the active backplate was really kind of designed and developed for kind of the prior generation 3090, specifically because of the memory being on the rear of the card and on the front of the card, right? Well, it depends on, you know, how you orientate the card, but you essentially had memory on both sides, right, of the PCB. But since you don't have that in this generation, it's not really active. So my recommendation would be save yourself the money and don't add the cost and the complexity, and also run into the potential mechanical conflict, because depending on the motherboard combination you run into, your active backplate could actually cause an impediment. It might not actually physically work with maybe the top slot or even the slot chassis spacing. So there are definitely factors that you have to evaluate. Now, you might be trying to resolve that because you're saying you're using a riser cable, but then with the riser cable, you've also added more complexity. You're adding the probability of having EMI based issues, right? You can also have signal integrity issues depending actually on the quality of the riser cable. So there's a lot of different factors, you know, but as long as you kind of just make sure to check, you know, your due diligence in regards to the mechanical interoperability, and then making sure you pick a good selection, you should be okay. All right. H2O Computer says, dude, JJ, I just got the X670E Extreme board delivered today. What a beast. Yeah, when you feel that Extreme board in hand, it's absolutely beastly. The heat sinks, the weight on that board. It's a really amazing motherboard. Definitely a super premium board. It's, you know, just like our Extreme series that we have on the Intel side. If you're looking for a board that's really kind of built for that ultra high kind of enthusiast perspective, then the Extreme option, I think, is an amazing choice. I think for really the most gamers, most enthusiasts, you know, the Dash E model and the Hero model are usually my kind of core recommendations. Extreme is really for those people that want their, you know, they want their 10G networking, they want Extreme IO, they want the most M.2 expansion. They're going to maybe use specialized things like the included, you know, controller box or the voltimeter, right? Or even want to use things like a dual ROM, right? So that they can switch back and forth between different BIOS designs, things like that, right? There's kind of a lot of flexibility, right? So, and, you know, ultimately just depends on what you're looking for, right? All right, so let's go ahead and move there from graphics cards. So those are our two new graphics card updates. All right, go ahead and go into, we'll go ahead and just give a quick update here on just this update that we have for the Claymore II. Most of you are probably familiar with the Claymore II, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it here, but I will go ahead and just touch on it quickly. So this is going to be essentially, for those that are not aware, the Claymore II, the kind of really unique element about it is that it is actually the keyboard that I am using right here. I want to be careful, I don't want to cut off our stream or anything like this, but it is a wired and wireless based keyboard. It does have, of course, full RGB. On there, it uses our ROG RX switches, which are some of my actual favorite switches because they have really, really low wobble, and that's because of their design. They're optical based, and the really cool part to this is this guy right here, which is going to be what we call the bond. So it means that you can actually go ahead and detach the numpad. So if you want to be able to do what I'm doing right here, so you can angle it, especially if you're gaming, then you have more flexibility where you can kind of tighten up your mouse, keep this. You can put less strain on your what's called your labrum on this part of your arm. This is really great for gaming, where you can kind of set it up like this, and you can kind of have your hand right here for the WASD keys, be able to map everything really, really easily. But maybe you're in a situation like me where you do take advantage sometimes of the numpad. Maybe you also want that nice volume wheel. You've got 4 dedicated macro buttons on there that you can go ahead and customize. Then you can go ahead and attach this. And this can be attached to either the left or to the right hand side. So you can go ahead and take advantage of it when you want, right? So the big update for this gen is going to be that we went ahead and incorporated the PBT keycaps. And so if you're not aware, PBT is going to essentially just be a more advanced way to be able to produce the keycap. The main benefit that you have with a PBT keycap is that essentially it's going to be more resistant to shine and to wear. So if you care about essentially making sure that you're going to have long-term legibility and durability to the keycap, this is going to be preferred than, let's say, some other forms where if you don't have like a double shop in PBT, then one, you're going to get usually a lot more wear to the keycap. It'll become a lot more shiny and glossy. stability. And depending if it might or might not be double shot, then you can also have actually the legend, or essentially the character that's on here, can actually fade away over time. But since it's actually injected through the entirety of the keycap, it can't disappear. So it allows it to be actually really, really reliable, really durable. And so definitely with ROG being a premium product, we want to have essentially all of them have PBT keycaps. So here you can see it's on the left-hand side versus being on the right-hand side. And if you want to go ahead and remove it, you can simply remove it, just as simple as that, right? Really, really nice. The Claymore also does have a nice USB pass-through. It has a little magnetic storage dock right there, which you can go ahead and put the wireless adapter in there. So that's our 2.4 gaming grade wireless, connects via USB-C. It comes with a nice cable that's included that's long and lengthy, but if you want to swap it out to your own custom cable, different color, you can entirely do that and you are good to go. It does support quick charging, which is great. The battery life is super long on this. It has dedicated hardware profiles too. So if you want to have a profile for gaming, a profile for productivity, if you want to have something for like, you know, Company Heroes, which is coming out, and then something for Overwatch, and then something for Forza, you could have entirely different profiles that are set up there. The keyboard also, you'll see right here, it says light mode. For those of you that may not want to, maybe you don't want to use our Armor Crate software, that is going to be the most advanced way to customize all the lighting. All of our keyboards have hardware level lighting control. So that means that you literally can just press the function key and those arrow keys and the mode keys. So you can switch between different color patterns, different types of RGB lighting modes, and you can reduce the brightness or increase the brightness. And you'll also see there at the top, we have the easy toggle there to be able to switch between different profiles. So you have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the default profile. So 5 profiles that you can toggle them. There you have all your custom media buttons. The media buttons are set as the priority, which is great because you can immediately start adjusting your volume. You can mute your volume. You can pause, you can play, you can do all those things, and then you can toggle back into your function keys if you're using your function keys, right? It does come included with this nice wrist rest. So that is actually inside the box. It's not an additional item that you need to purchase. And it is just a fantastic keyboard. It's one of my favorites. The RX switch that we have in here, there's a really, really cool design to it. So it has this X stabilizer. So that allows the actual switch to be really consistent in how it actually comes up and down. A lot of times to get this consistency, you'd have to go to a much higher quality spring in a traditional type of switch. It just adds a lot more kind of complexity in terms of, you know, what you may have to do. If you had to open your switch, lube your switch, you'd have to maybe add a spring if you had a mechanical switch. But the great thing is with the ROG RX optical switches, one, they add X stabilizer, helps to add a lot of rigidity, and then has what's called a 4-point stem. And the 4-point stem actually allows it to be really stable in terms of what's called the keycap deviation. So the keycap deviation, essentially what happens if you have a center weighted stem, right? So right here, actually that's a good thing that we can stop right there, is that you'll see right here that you have these 4 points. Those 4 points, that's actually what allows the keycap to have actually much more consistency and stability. So for me, I find it quite annoying a lot of times with a standard keycap that's cross stem. Essentially, when you put it on there, it's going to wobble, and it wobbles quite a bit more. Most people just get used to it. Some keycaps that are better molded can sometimes help to mitigate wobble, right? But it is quite difficult. So the benefit here is that you just get inherently much more stability and consistency from the experience when you're, especially for a touch typist. It's really, really nice in that regard. So this model will be coming out shortly. You should see it again probably within the next week and a half to 2 weeks. You want to make sure to see it listed. It says the PBT, so it will be the PBT edition. And for those of you that are kind of wondering, hey, I've got an old Claymore, will you guys come out with other PBT keycaps for that as an upgrade kit? Yes, we should have those coming out towards the end of the month. So they should essentially both be available, the keycap set or the keyboard inherently with the PBT keycaps sometime in, I'd say, early March to mid-March timeframe. Okay. All right. So that is going to be the ROG CLAYMORE II. And I think that covered probably everything else that I wanted to cover there on that. So I'll go ahead and just see if we had any quick questions on that side. So somebody saying, is 4 holes for the keycaps are stable? Yes, so definitely that allows the keycap to be a lot more stable. And if you guys even want to see like a demo of this, I have a full dedicated live stream where actually I took the keyboard apart. I show it side by side between like a standard stem switch and everything like that. And to be honest, like even if you got like a custom keycap, so you took like our ROG Azoth, or you took like a Flare 2 Animate, or even if you had like a third-party custom keyboard, it actually would be quite challenging to create that stability, because you'd have to get a switch, preferably some type of a box switch. Then you'd have to have a high quality keycap that's been really well molded, and then that box switch with that keycap, and then ideally even the keycap would want to be what's called a lower height, because the taller you make the keycap, it also will add a little bit actually more higher likelihood to have what's called that forced deviation. So you kind of got to do a lot of little elements, and here it's just a much simpler experience that it's just out of the box. It's going to be smooth and stable and really, really nice, right? All right, so very, very cool. So that is going to cover the ROG CLAYMORE II update. All right, we're definitely quickly question through these updates. All right, next up, we're going to do the two motherboards. Let's go ahead and do first the ROG STRIX Gaming Wi-Fi DDR5, and then we're going to do quickly the Tough Gaming model. All right, and again, if anybody has any questions, feel free to go ahead and drop them in the chat there, and I will do my best to go ahead and get to them. So we're going to jump into motherboards next. Is the armrest size only for full-size keyboard? No, we do have a TKL key rest. It should be available on the ROG Asus eStore. So yeah, you should be able to get one if you got like a smaller keyboard. So like this is TKL. I'm a big fan of the TKL. You can get a TKL-based wrist rest. All right. Lex Luthor was noting, was kind of hoping for an all-back stand on the PG32UQ XR like the PG32UQ. Yeah, thanks for the update. Most of the models have been transitioned to a full black stand as far as the overall ID design, but yeah, some of them might still be using maybe the older ID design in that regard. So just make sure to keep it tuned in that regard. Maybe see something that we still change before we get there. That is already feedback that we've given to our team to kind of keep more of a color neutrality, but it's not that much of a difference, I think, in the design accent, but I know definitely there are people that prefer that. And keep in mind, if you always wanted to remove that, you could get the ROG desk mount kit. The ROG desk mount kit is a great accessory which allows you to clamp the monitor directly onto your table, and then you have a really nice level of open space in terms of the actual monitor setup. And the ROG desk mount kit is, if you guys are not aware, I can show it to you guys really quick here before we get to our next motherboard. This is a really cool accessory. It's often, I think, a big value point that we offer compared to many other manufacturers, because it's compatible with, you know, like over 30 of our monitors. Is you can see it's a really easy way of, instead of having to deal with like a whole arm and putting like the VESA bracket and then having to adjust that and do all that, if you just want something simple and easy, bam, get an ROG monitor. You can get the desk mount kit, clamp it to your desk, and that's it. And the good thing is, because the way that our actual ergonomic system is designed, is you can still kind of lift and move the monitor, right? So you still get ergonomic adjustment, right? You just have stabilized it with a C clamp design. So it's a cool level of functionality that's very simple, and it's not very expensive. And again, has a wide degree of compatibility. You can see from all the way from 24-inch models all the way even up to our 49-inch model is compatible with the ROG desk mount kit, right? All right, so pretty cool. Yeah, Lex Luthor goes, the new stand on the 27-inch is so nice. Yeah, well, we completely redid that. So that was an entirely new design in terms of the design and development for that monitor. So we really wanted to spend the effort to kind of have a really nice, clean and stylized design. So that is kind of the new design language you're going to be seeing moving forward for newer ROG Strix monitors. So it just kind of depends on when the monitor was under the design and development pipeline as far as what it might have resident to the ID. But as we continue to move forward, you'll see those new IDs. And this is similar to kind of like Tough Gaming. If you look at some of the Tough Gaming monitors from like 2 years ago to some of the new Tough Gaming monitors, they feature a more refined and kind of clean design. So that's something that we're always kind of trying to evolve and improve upon, right? All right, so let's go ahead and take a look here at the ROG Strix Z790-A. Very, very cool board right here. One of my favorites and very popular board amongst the community. A lot of builders have used this guy in terms of kind of getting this set up for a build. If you don't want to go super expensive, but you want to be able to take advantage of things like our Asus AIOC technology, that's a really, really great way to be able to easily overclock your K-series CPUs, because you don't have to know anything about overclocking. You literally just run your games, you run a benchmark, it will track the temperatures, and then based on your system's cooling performance and what we detect in terms of the capability for the CPU, will automatically, efficiently, and effectively overclock your CPU with what's called an adaptive voltage. So it's efficient. It'll go up and it'll go down depending on your workload. It's a per core based overclock, so it helps to maximize the range. It's a really, really great function and features. It's exclusive to our higher end boards. So you don't get this like on the Tough Gaming model. You get it on an ROG Strix model, but you don't have to go all the way up to, let's say, like the Maximus Hero to be able to get this feature. It's got a really, really nice design. It's really popular amongst people that do want to go with maybe a white theme based build. I really like the nice acrylic design that we have on there for a little little bit of the RGB lighting accent on there. Otherwise, you don't have a lot of RGB lighting zones. You don't even have to turn this on if you don't want to. Nice, big, robust heat sinks. Nice, high-performant teamed power stage-based design on here. The big update for this generation is this is DDR5 versus the current model is DDR4. Some other cool things here is you do get the nice cool quick release button. So that is our quick release ejection mechanism. So literally you can install the graphics card, press a button and eject it. You don't have to kind of try to find something to push down to eject the graphics card. Really, really useful for some users when they're going through their build process. You can see you've got a lot of M.2 expansion with 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you get up to 4 M.2 SSDs on here. Internal USB-C header. You're going to have 3 ARGB headers, which are going to be on here, including a legacy 4-pin RGB that's going to be on there. When you go down here, you got the Crystal Sound isolated audio design with its, of course, Savitech amp, which gives you an improved output for headphones and headsets. Optional Thunderbolt header that's also available to you there. And, you know, I think 5 total fan headers along with the CPU and CPU OPT fan headers are on there. So a lot of rich connectivity and overall a great board. And even some subtle things that you guys might not even realize. Like a cool thing I love right here is you notice we reinforced the actual housing for the legacy USB 3 header because we knew from just customer feedback and analysis that sometimes people shear that header off. It literally can rip off when people plug it in and take it out. So we did a reinforcement. It seems small, but again, it's that kind of that premium experience there to be able to improve upon the feature set and the overall functionality and the design of the product. For the back I/O, lots of great I/O. You're going to have HDMI, DisplayPort, you got USB BIOS flashback, a clear CMOS, which hopefully, again, you guys give me thumbs up from that. We had to push really, really hard to get clear CMOS on the Strix for this generation. Normally, we have never offered it on this entry of a board. You might have seen like clear CMOS like on the Dash E, but never on something like the Dash A. So clear CMOS, then you've got 4 USB right there. You got 10 gigabit right there with another Type A, dual Type C on the back, and then 20 gigabit, 2.5 gig, and Wi-Fi 6E and optical audio out with that integrated I/O shield. It's stacked. It's, you know, it's a fantastic board. It's not going to break the bank. You even get some nice things like a secondary accessory M.2 thermal pad there if you were swapping things out. So some really, really nice touches. Of course, the nice, of course, ROG stickers, which I know a lot of people really actually like the ROG stickers with their builds. And so that guy is going to be coming in at, let me go ahead and check here. Give me 1 second. And double check the pricing. I think this one is going to be, let me check here. 1 second. No, we just finalized the price listing on that one. That one should be, where do I have it right there? Oh, I didn't list it. I think it should be $399 is what I do believe it should be the pricing on there. I will double check and make sure I have that listed. So watch out for that information if you are interested in picking this up. And again, you should be seeing this probably within about the next, I'd say 2 weeks in terms of its overall availability. All right. Looks like a good mid-range board. Yeah, I mean, definitely, I think that this could really work well for even high-end builds. I mean, you don't have to put a 13600K in here. You could put a 13700, you could put a 13900 in there and have really no problems. There's a lot of value add, of course, going up to something like a Maximus board. If you want to go to like a Hero, you're going to get the ESS Saber DAC. You're going to get the differential Dysense voltage monitoring and even more advanced VRM. You're going to get USB 4. You're going to get Thunderbolt, a more advanced RGB lighting design. There's tons of value benefits to definitely going to the higher-end board, but for the vast majority of builders, I think it's a really, really great option without going super, super crazy in terms of the price point. Oh, DePoet's right here is definitely noting, yep, the USB 3 header comes off far too often. So there you go. You can hear it from somebody else in terms of you know, what the feedback is. Tech saying is no Thunderbolt on board. No, Thunderbolt is reserved for all of the higher end, so on the Maximus series boards. One, because statistically, you know, we've done polling over 75,000 users, and the statistical usage rate of Thunderbolt is exceedingly small. So passing that cost over to the user doesn't make more sense. It really makes more sense to put in other features like the Savitech amp, right? Or to put more fan headers, right? Or to put the integrated I/O shield or a more robust VRM, or even things like the licensing to be able to integrate the mem test inside of the UEFI, right? Or the discrete hardware that we need on the motherboard to be able to enable things like the ASUS AIOC technology. All those things make much more sense. And plus you can still have the option to go to Thunderbolt if you really need it. But the reality is in our polling, the vast majority of users literally have a 5 gigabit base device. So if you already had 20 gigabits on the motherboard, which this motherboard has multiple 20 gigabits ports on there, that's 4 times faster than the fastest device they have, which is only 5 gigabits. So the value add of USB 4 is very small because it really only exists for a very small segment of the market. But once you go into the Maximus class, of course, if you were to buy like a Maximus Hero, or if you were to get like a Maximus Extreme, then you're going to get USB 4, you're going to get Thunderbolt on there. Anybody wondering about the power stage configuration, that's a 16+1. I think it's 70 amp in terms of the power stages. Those are also smart power stages, so SPS based power stages that are on that motherboard, and you're good to go. And also, hey, anybody that's watching this and is in the kind of interesting and bang for the buck community, this board does have AMP. Go back and watch my dedicated live stream on AMP and DDR5 overclocking. And if you want to save yourself tons of money, buy yourself a green OEM kit of memory with Samsung or SK Hynix M-Die or A-Die memory, right? You know, and then enable an AMP profile and be able to significantly extend the margin on that. And you can probably save yourself like $150 in terms of the memory cost, maybe even more than that, because a lot of those kits, we can profile them and dial them into something like, 62, 6400, C32, C30 base kit of memory, right, from one of those OEM not OEM, but let's say non-XMP based kits. So this motherboard does fully support that AMP technology. So it's a really, really cool feature and function that is present on there. So if you guys are looking for kind of a little bit of a value add, that's a really cool feature that we do have on there. And I'd recommend, again, if you want to see a little bit more information on that, you can check that out on the service and support side. All right. So let me just see any other questions that might be on that one. Let me see. Somebody's asking, the Rakiri DAC, does it interfere, cancel out, or complement the onboard DAC? So Derek, you're asking about the controller. So the Rakiri that does have an integrated DAC, it's not really relevant, right? Because it depends on what you're using. The reason why we implemented DAC there is because there's also a dedicated jack to plug in your headset or your microphone. So that's where the DAC would influence that, right? If you were to plug it into a system, it's essentially just treated as another sound card. So it doesn't contend or compete, because essentially anytime you add in another digital DAC, essentially it becomes another option as far as an audio processing source. So you actually would have to manage that in Windows, right? It's like, which DAC are you using? Are you using the DAC that's on the motherboard? Are you using the DAC that's in the controller? Are you using the DAC that's externally connected, right? It all depends on what you're going to be using. Like even here, take for instance our ROG Deltas, they're still one of the only headsets on the market. I love it. It's USB-C. It bypasses any audio design that we have on the motherboard. It doesn't matter what we do on the motherboard because it has an ESS Saber DAC and amp built into it. And we've also matched that DAC to be optimized to the drivers and the way that we design the drivers inside the headphone. So no, it doesn't cancel out or compete. It's pretty much just, it's not relevant because it's its own DAC within that. So you would have to specifically use that as an audio source, or essentially to take advantage of it, right? All right. All right, I think we got some good feedback right there. Let me see right there. Also, Tech was saying no PCI Gen 5. No, that board does support PCI Gen 5. It just doesn't have PCI Gen 5 for the M.2, right? 4 slots are all PCI Gen 4, which in reality is more than you need from a gaming perspective. If you didn't want to go PCI Gen 5, then of course you could go to one of the other motherboards that does have PCI Gen 5, like the ROG STRIX Z790-E has native PCI Gen 5 on board, if that was going to be important to you. Okay. All right, let's go to the next board here. We're going to have the Tough Gaming motherboard, which this one's going to be about $100 cheaper. We're going to be going with the Tough Gaming Z790 Plus, one of my favorite motherboards in my lineup, and really one that I love to really make a recommendation for a lot of people when they're looking for a really great choice. I absolutely love the ID design that we have on the Tough Gaming. Looks just really clean. It does have that element of kind of toughness and durability that I think looks fantastic. There's very little RGB. It really is a monochrome based motherboard. It's just a little subtle RGB right there on the edge of the motherboard. But if you do want a little bit of accent lighting, it is going to be present there, but it is quite subtle. You still do have, of course, full Aura sync support. So through the graphics card, through the memory, through any device that you add, there's 3 headers that are going to be on the motherboard. We also did integrate the Q release ejection, which is new because we didn't have it in Z690 for Tough Gaming. It was only on the higher end boards, but here we brought it on Z790. You still even get it on this motherboard, and you're still going to also get up to 4 M.2 SSDs, 1 2, 3, and 4. The Strix board, you can see, just has more heat sinks that are going to be on there, right, in terms of the motherboard. The audio codec is also a little bit higher grade on the ROG Strix, but this is still our tough gaming isolated audio design. Still a nice, robust, and performant VRM. Very large and robust heat sinks. This Team Power Stage delivery that's also going to be on here. But like you'll see right there, there's that little subtle difference. Sometimes people wonder, like, hey, where's some of the differences you see on the tough gaming? It doesn't have the reinforced USB 3 internal header, right? But overall, I absolutely love this overall board design. I think it looks fantastic. Great set of core features, functions, and spec that are on here. And when we take a look at the I/O, still pretty nice, right? You get HDMI, DP, USB 3. This is 5 gigabits, then 10 gigabits, and you still get dual USB-C on here. So still, you're gonna get 2, 4, 6, 8. So 8 ports on there. You get more on the Strix, but you still even get 20 gigabits and a 10 gigabits, and you still get Wi-Fi 6E, 2.5 gig LAN, and the optical audio out. So I really don't think that you're like compromising heavily. I think probably the biggest thing that enthusiasts might maybe miss out on, or might be the reason why they might want to jump to the board, is going to be the Asus AIOC technology, or the aesthetic, right? You wanting to have that white. I think those are two big value props. Now you can fully still overclock this board. It also has, you know, XMP, AMP, memory support, all that really great stuff. But from that ease of use from an overclocking perspective, it does not feature Asus AIOC. So you do have to kind of go in there and more manually tune the motherboard. You have to kind of be more familiar with a voltage frequency curve. You have to know what an adaptive voltage is, right? You have to kind of understand maybe what an AVX offset is. You might have to kind of understand, hey, how do I adjust for thermal velocity boost, right? The great thing is, though, I do have a dedicated live stream, and I will even have more content in there that kind of give you insights on how to manually overclock if you don't want to. Maybe make that cost investment into a board that has Asus AIOC, or maybe you just, you know, rather just do it manually. Then, you know, we try to provide kind of both options there in terms of support. And that one will be coming in at $300 as far as the price point. All right. Hey, Derek, if you can email me, if you can try to just make sure and go ahead and request entry. Generally, we try to, I usually check entries every day and approve entries. So usually there shouldn't be more than 24 hours in terms of you being able to have access to the group. Otherwise, unless you've broken one of our group policies and been removed from the group, you should have free and easy access. We just ask people to respect and honor our group rules, which are openly stated, and read our about section. But otherwise, it should be easy to be able to go ahead and take a join. But if you run into issue, you can email me, pcdiy@asus.com. Okay. HO Computers says, I've got a tough build coming on this same board. Looking forward to that one. Ooh, very, very cool. Thank you so much. Michael says, when will non-shared M.2 controllers come to the motherboard with full speeds, not share with graphics card PCI slots? That doesn't really exist unless you have enough PCI Express lanes, right? That's kind of the whole point of having a motherboard like you know, what we showed off in our WS stream, right? With something like this, right? Where you talk about the W790, because the platform has so much more PCI Express lanes, right? When you have more PCI Express lanes, you don't have to share anything. That is the fundamental difference between kind of a mainstream chipset versus a high-end kind of, let's say, workstation class type of chipset where you've got more PCI Express lanes. Now, Intel has already gone ahead and reserved bandwidth, right? I mean, you already always have dedicated at least one full by 4 link that is regardless not going to be touched. And in reality, most users just don't need more than that, right? If you then start going into more, even if you did go to PCI Express by 8, right, Gen 4, it doesn't matter. You could literally drop half and you would not be saturating the overall bandwidth of the graphics card. You can put a 4090 in there and you would not have any performance loss. It's literally going to be exactly the same. So people that get obsessed from the perspective of having to think that I have to keep by 16, it's just not logical. There's no merit to it at all. It literally is just I'd say an artificial comfort factor, right? Where people just kind of go, it's like, I don't want to feel bottleneck. There is no bottlenecking that's happening. When you talk about actually the sustained amount of bandwidth, also GPUs, to be honest, they don't really use a large amount of the PCI Express bandwidth because the way that they're actually designed is a large amount of the data, once it gets to the cache and it gets to the VRAM on the card, there's not a lot of heavy actually saturation of the PCI Express bus that's occurring. So it's actually much more about kind of total latency and hops within the chain, which is also part of kind of the improvement improvements that have been coming through, enhancements that are now coming in terms of how data is being sent to the graphics card to be able to more efficiently actually send information over, because really the pipeline is not really being utilized in the way that it I guess it could be, right? Storage is actually quite a bit more sensitive in that regard, right? Where if you've got a workflow and you can actually send that much data, then you could definitely realize the benefit of PCI Express Gen 3 or PCI Express Gen 4, or even PCI Express Gen 5. But again, even then normal users don't even saturate. If you actually measured the throughput of what a normal desktop user does, even people that buy Gen 4 drives, their normal usage of the drive is going to probably be a few hundred megabytes a second. It's generally going to be underneath a gig a second. So what that really means is that you buy a Gen 4 drive, but you're not using the actual sequential bandwidth that's available to you. So there's a kind of a false assumption that is propagated by always measuring things like with sequential or like full bandwidth perspective, as opposed to a real world perspective of how you utilize the drive. That's where things like IOPS and random read and write performance is so much more important to the way you experience, let's say, storage performance than just how fast the sequential performance is for a drive. All right. Lex Luthor is asking, can I get your number? No, but you can always tag me inside the ASUS PCDIY group. That's the best way to be able to get updates. You can tag me there and let me know. And rest assured, we also have a product release calendar that I have in there. I haven't updated it this year, but I'll be updating it probably next week. And I'll have unreleased monitors in there, kind of an expected price line and price point. So we have a link there. You should be able to find it if you search in the group product release calendar. It'll take you to an Airtable page that I have that I populate with the information. And I update that incrementally. I hope to update it usually about every 7 to 10 days. But the PCDIY stream, as well as in the PCDIY group, the moment that we essentially have an availability notice, so essentially we know that we're going to be releasing the product, we have the price point, we have the projection of when it's going to be available in the channel, I'll make an announcement in the group, and then I'll also go ahead and be talking about it here on the PCDIY stream. So yeah, so the best way, again, is just to be part of the group and be watching the streams. That'll make sure that you're always kind of up to date on all that good stuff. All right, so that covers us for the two new latest motherboards. All right, so next up, what do we got? We got power supplies. All right, so this is kind of continuing the long rolling release that has been for our Thor P2 series power supplies. So we started off originally with the 1000 watt, and then we finally, just not that long ago, last month, we announced the 1600 watt, and now we're actually releasing the 1200 watt, and then last in this lineup will be the 850 watt. And then for those that are interested in having an ATX 3.0 based power supply, we will have those in kind of late, probably March, early April timeframe with the Tough Gaming Gold. We'll have the ROG STRIX Aura as well, and then we will also have the Loki. Now, it's important to keep in mind that there is no requirement for any graphics card or any platform for ATX 3.0. There is zero hardware requirement. It does not exist. And also from a topology perspective, really the only requirement that your power supply has to have to meet operation with new technology, new components, is it has to be able to meet the amperage requirement and the wattage requirement. Beyond that, the design of the power supply is really the most important thing, right? What are the components being selected? What is its ripple performance, right? What is its uptime and downtime, right? How thermally efficient is it, right? How quiet is it? And all those things, while they can potentially align with the specification support, it's not a limiting factor. So all of the Thor 2 series power supplies can fully support any graphics card on the market, including our 4070 Ti, our 4080, our 4090. They can fully support any overclocked advanced configuration platforms, and they also do come included with the 12 volt high power cable, which essentially is that new cable that you see like on 4070 Ti, 4080, 4090 based graphics cards. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look here at the Thor 1200 watt, and we'll see right here. All right, so I think I've got a little video here that we can kind of check out. The cool thing that we did with the Thor series is there's a little bit kind of an overall ID design that we went ahead and updated. Really, the focus is to be ultra quiet, high quality based solutions. So outstanding efficiency. You're going to get, of course, fully modular with individually sleeved cables. You have our Axial Tech static pressure optimized fan, ROG heat sinks. These are going to be absolutely some of the absolute coolest power supplies on the market. Premium internal power topology. In addition to that, you get the RGB, of course, sync capability. You get the OLED wattage display that's going to be on this unit on there as well. And so again, you have different types of configurations that are going to be available to you here. From right now, we've got the 1000 watt, We also now have the 1600 watt, and we're going to have the 1200 watt very shortly. And then, like I said, lastly, we'll have the 850 watt. Now, the design on this model, it's aesthetically been kind of, I say, revised from the prior version. And so with the prior version, I would say the design was very black. This design actually has a little bit more of, I'd say, almost like a dual characteristic design, which almost depending on the lighting, it can look like kind of silver and complement kind of silver and white theme based builds. So if you put it into like a Helios that was white and silver, it would still look really good. But at the same time, if you put this into a black build, it can still also really work within a black themed build. So this is going to be the 1200 watt right here. You can see it's got this really nice kind of cool, clean, stylized design. You have, of course, that 0 dB operating mode option right there on the back that you can toggle. You have that RGB accent right here. So RGB, RGB, and then RGB, and then the OLED wattage display. A lot of people forget, make sure that you always connect your ARGB cable, which would connect to your motherboard or to your controller so that you can go ahead and synchronize the lighting. If not, you won't be able to synchronize the lighting. It is, of course, a fully modular based power supply. And again, you do have a good amount of cables that come that are already individually sleeved. So these are premium individually sleeved cables that are present within the power supply. Okay. And that is going to be the Thor 1200 watt. And pricing, let me go ahead and bring that up for you guys right here. I will double check that. Give me 1 second. Thor, it's going to be 380. That will be for the ROG, the ROG Thor 1200 watt. Okay. And again, for those that are going to be interested in wanting, like I said, native ATX 3.0 specification support, we will have the Tough Gaming Gold, which will be new and fully modular and go up to 1000 watt. We will have the ROG STRIX Aura. I believe that is also only going to go up to 1000 watt. And then we will have the ROG Loki, which will be SFXL, and those will go up to 1000 watt. And tentatively, there should be a 1200 watt as well. But do keep in mind that the 1200 watt is kind of TBD in terms of the overall kind of timeline that we have available right now. It hasn't been kind of set. So the expectation right now initially is going to be for a second like that 750 to 1000 watt range. And also, if you noted and kind of heard right there, I said ROG Strix Aura and the Tough Gaming Gold. Those are going to be Gold Series PSUs, while the Thor is, of course, a Platinum rated PSU. So it offers even higher efficiency. But, you know, from an operating standpoint, you can easily run a high-end build with a Gold or a Platinum. It's not really of consequence in that regard, okay? So you're going to be entirely all good in that respect. So I will go ahead and drop that link in that chat if anybody is interested in checking this guy out. And again, it should be popping up in the not too distant future. All right. Let me see if there's any quick questions right there. 379, that's correct. Yes, I said 380. You know, sometimes we have some stuff that's like, you know, ends in 99. So sometimes I round it up just for clarity for you guys so you can make it clear. But yes, that is correct. 380 will be the price point for the Thor 1200 watt. Some people that ask is that, do you really need a 1200 watt? Most users don't. Most users are still really fine with an 850 watt or really even 1000 watt for overclock configurations. Even if you're looking at something like a 4080 or 4090, keep in mind that the peak transients, so that essentially is kind of like the peak spike in power demand, actually on 40 series is better than 30 series. So it seems kind of a little bit odd, but technically if you run an older generation GPU, so like a 3090, right? Take for instance, you could actually have higher peak power spikes under a 3090 than you would actually under a 4090, even though the 4090 is a significantly more more powerful card. But from a power consumption standpoint and from a peak transient response standpoint, it's actually better. So the overall kind of demands on the power supply, it's actually less. So again, in terms of an overall power supply rating, even for like a high-end like 13900K system with like a 4090, 1000 watt would be already more than you would need. A lot of it also depends on what you're doing with the system. Are you overclocking the GPU and the CPU? How many fans? How many storage devices you're running? Kind of all those different aspects right there. Hey, Aline, happy to have you here, man. Thanks so much. I don't know if you covered it. When is the Rikiri Pro? No, I didn't recover because I generally try to cover things in the stream that we're actually coming to the market with. So the last time I talked about the Rikiri was when we did the announcement for the CES live stream. Right now, we don't have an update yet. It's still, last time I checked in terms of an update availability, we're still projecting it probably for Q2 timeframe. So again, when we probably get closer to Q2, so probably in April, there'll probably start to be some updates in terms of availability. And again, the moment that we're getting ready to launch it, I will be posting about it in the PCDIY group, and you'll also see that as a notice within the PCDIY streams for Friday. Okay. Loki for pricing, I don't have any pricing yet for the 1000 watts, so I can't tell you. But like I said, availability, you're going to be looking, like I said, around March timeframe, probably late March to early April timeframe. Okay. One question here, Tech, is would the ROG Strix Z790-E gaming Wi-Fi be a better upgrade from a Z690 Hero or the Z790 Hero in regards to higher frequency memory and onboard features? Actually, I talk about this in our DDR5 Insights post. So technically, Raptor Lake running on Z690 will already get you a higher IMC. Actually, I've already shown that you can do like 7000 MT on Z690. There's still always a little bit of variability from board to board, and then of course the quality of your IMC. So I'd recommend checking out your my DDR5 Insight post, which actually covers this topic specifically, and it's also covered in our prior live stream. You do get gen to gen though. Z790 has better signal integrity. So if you're targeting kind of higher frequencies, so you're targeting specifically like 7000 MT and higher, there is a higher probability of success at hitting certain frequencies on Z790 than there would be similarly on Z690. But again, if you're running 13 gen on Z690, the scaling range is already quite good that for the vast majority of users, there's not really a specific value add to do. If you were to make, I'd say, an upgrade, quote unquote, from a Z690 Hero to a board, you have to ask yourself features and functions and spec, because the Hero is still going to have things that the Z790E would not have. I think the E is a really good choice though, because you still get the ASUS AIC, you get tons of USB on there, right? You're going to get the native PCI Gen 5, which actually the Hero doesn't have. It doesn't have native PCI Express Gen 5 M.2, but it does have 2 slots. So if maybe you were to water cool and you wanted to add in the card via a slot, then the Hero could still be a great alternative. So it depends on kind of how you would spec out your build and your configuration. Also, whether or not you would use certain things that the Hero might have. Again, like, do you want things like USB 4 and Thunderbolt, or you don't? I don't think most, like I said, most users just don't need it. You know, the total number of ports already on the Dash E is already outstanding, and the number of drives that you can run also on the Dash E I think is great. So to me, I think if I was to upgrade, I'd probably go with the Dash E, although I really love the look of the Hero. The Hero, I think, is an absolutely fantastic looking board. But check out that stream and check out our DDR5 Insight post within the group. It covers that in depth. So hopefully that answers your question there. All right. So there we go. We've got the Thor P2 out of the way. All right. What do we got next here? So we got ROG Strix Dash A, Z790 Plus, our GTX 650, our our RTX 3060, Claymore II, and we then have our Thor P2. All right, next up, let's get into some monitors. All right, so we're going to be talking about, let me see right here. What do I got? It's going to be the ROG STRIX XG27AQ. All right, let me go ahead and bring this up here. Did I not bring up the pricing for this one? That's my fault, guys. I need to make sure. I will make sure to to go ahead and note that. So I will need to do that. And I also have a note here from my team on making sure to you guys, if you guys are interested in checking out our portable monitor page, we've actually updated it. So we'll be touching on that here. Okay. So here we go. This is going to be the, ROG STRIX XG27AQ. Let me make sure I got all the right information in here and the right link for you. Yep. Okay, great. And let me get that in here. This, I think, is going to be a really popular choice for the price point. You know, when you're talking about $379, not very expensive. If you haven't kind of made that update there to a 1440p based display, right? It's really, really nice option. So your 2560 by 1440, 1 millisecond gray to gray. That's going to be the peak, of course, because the average across the screen is going to be higher than that. Fast IPS, which is a more modern version of a traditional IPS-based display, so the overall kind of pixel response time is better. You do have G-Sync support, and Display HDR, while it's not an HDR-focused monitor, what it does essentially means is you have a much brighter monitor than standard. So especially if you're coming over from an older display, which might only be rated for like 200, 250 nits, even in SDR, you're going to get a brighter monitor, which allows you to have kind of a punchier and just more vibrant experience. You do also have our ASUS eLMB sync technology,
technology, which essentially is backlight strobing. This can be nice in certain games to be able to get a benefit in terms of motion clarity. It's something I always recommend people try out. You may not use it, you may use it. It just depends on, you know, the experience, but having that level of functionality you can enable, I think is nice. And I know somebody talked about a little bit earlier about the ID design. This is actually our new ID design here. So really nice, clean, all back display with really nice thin bezels that are going to be present on here. So really nice option again for $379, 1440p, high refresh rate, right? Low response time. Really cool, clean ID design, good ergonomic adjustment. You get all of our kind of Game Plus centric features. So things like shadow boost, game visual, on-screen options there for things like a timer and all kinds of adjustments you can do. For the ergonomic adjustment, you can see you got full range, height, swivel, pivot, and tilt. A lot of users forget about this until they have a monitor. They're like, man, I can't height adjust the monitor. And then I got to go spend another $100 on getting an arm when you should just bought a monitor that had the ergonomic adjustment in the first place. Also, our warranty, we have longer warranty than many other competitors for our monitors. Some competitors like Samsung and LG might offer you like a 1-year warranty on their traditional LCDs. We can offer actually up to 3-year select limited warranties on our monitors. It's quite a bit longer. Also, all ROG STRIX displays come factory calibrated, and so that's going to be a nice upgrade even compared to like our tough gaming monitors, which you could have very good color quality, but you have to maybe know how to calibrate it. And we already know from our own surveys with users that over 75% of users do not calibrate their display. So if you care about wanting to get a picture quality that's accurate out of the box in terms of colors, that's again another value add. So, and again, if you don't know how to calibrate and you don't have hardware, to get a colorimeter is conservatively going to cost you at least about like $65 to $100 for a colorimeter. So again, you can already get the display where it's factory calibrated straight from the factory by us. In terms of your connections, to HDMI, a line level audio jack, right, display port, and also a USB hub, which is built in there. And then a feature which, guess what? Who's going to tell me in the chat? What is JJ going to say? One of his favorite features that comes on a monitor that not a lot of people know about. Let's see if anybody figure it out. Right here, display widget. Display widget, it's one of my favorite features that we have on our monitors. We've had it for years, really kind of a leader in the space in terms of offering it. And the whole point of what display widget does, oh, do I not have it installed on here? I don't have it installed because I changed, oh no, I do have it. All right. Do I have it on here? I don't remember if I have it actually installed on here. But if I do, I'll pop it up here and I'll show you. But the cool thing about, yep, I do have it on here. Okay, cool. So the cool thing about display widget is that it is actually a full OSD based control within the operating system. So when you have your monitor connected, the really cool thing that you have is the ability to essentially kind of do profile adjustments, right? Where you can adjust the brightness, contrast, sharpness, enables things like shadow boost. You can go to different presets like sRGB mode to user mode, whatever you want. And my favorite feature within this is called App Sync. App Sync actually lets you create profiles to specific applications. So like if I jump into something, let's say like Forza versus like Valorant versus like CSGO, you could have different presets. And then the moment you upload the application, it'll automatically switch. So a great example is like if you want your browser to be in sRGB mode to be the most color accurate, but then maybe you go into an FPS game where maybe you want a little bit more kind of punchy colors, or you want to be able to punch up the shadows, you could have it automatically do that. And you never have to physically touch the buttons on the monitor. So it's a really nice feature that we offer when we talk about display widget. And you might be like, what is that? That's what I'm talking about. That is what that feature is. Okay. Let's see right here. Any chance that collabs ever get product upgrades like 4090 series? No, right now there's no plans for any new items for the Demon Slayer collab to get any new products. We pretty much already hit like the completion of that. And all I can tell you is in terms of collabs, make sure to keep tuned. We'll have maybe some more exciting announcements for different collaborations. But in terms of the Demon Slayer, all the Demon Slayer collaborations have already been complete. So there's no plans to upgrade any other products or add anything else to that. Especially for collaborations, it's a very extensive, long logistic and legal process to be able to essentially figure out the models, the number of models, go back and forth between the two different designs teams to kind of finalize all the work. So all of that has to be kind of pre-validated and approved and finished, literally months ahead of time before you actually get to that. So it's pretty much almost impossible to add a product in after the fact. You pretty much have to do it from the very beginning. When will we see HDMI 2.1 monitors? We already announced our first our first DP 2.1 monitor. It'll be coming out later on, but again, there's not really a demand for it. There's not an immediate requirement, so it'll kind of align in with GPU technology, right? I think just in the same way we saw HDMI 2.1, and HDMI 2.1 took a longer time to see also roll out because of the pandemic. You might not realize it, but there are things that are called plug fests that actually have to happen between like the DisplayPort Foundation, the HDMI Foundation, from design and developers from the GPU side, from monitor manufacturers, and they actually have to have these plug fests where they go into the development process and be able to actually sync up and physically test products and be able to do interoperability testing and feedback. And the pandemic threw a big wrinkle in a lot of that and actually added complexity to the rollout of those products. And it's still, the reality is the pandemic is not over in some places, and it still continues to be a challenge in terms of some of these factors. So it significantly extended out the development timeline for some of these products. And so, it's improving though, definitely. And, you're going to continue to see these developments, but over the coming kind of months and, over really the coming years, you'll see that specification get more broad implementation in newer products, right? Does the monitor come with software such as on-screen control? I don't know what you mean by that, but I already explained, right? This monitor comes with the display widget software, and we really were like one of the first ones to offer that. We've had display widget literally on monitors for like, I think 4 years, maybe almost 5 years. Okay. A Show Computer says IP collab 40K Warhammer. You got it. You got it. I would love to see that. I would love to see that. Warhammer, and 40K specifically. It's absolutely one of my absolute favorite IP franchises. Unquestionably, everything from tabletop, right, to the Horus Heresy, to so many things. I subscribe to Warhammer Plus. Okay, so that's how you know I'm a 40K fan, right? And if you guys haven't checked out 40K Plus, check it out. They got some awesome shows on there. If you guys want to check it out. All right. So let's go ahead and keep moving that along. That's the XG27AQ. Again, if you guys want to see it, you guys will be seeing this pop up. Great option right there if you want to be able to get in on a great 1440p monitor. I'm also going to let you guys know about this right here. This is going to be just an update here to our portable series of displays. So if you guys are not aware, ASUS is really a market leader when it comes to kind of portable displays. We got tons of different options for you. I've covered these incrementally the coming weeks when we release new products, but you can see everything from here, from like our Zen Screen series, where we've got a wide range of models from everything from OLED to LCD to fully wireless to ones with integrated batteries. So they're truly portable, means that there's no cables, right? And you just connect your USB, or again, you have ones that are entirely wireless. You got our PA series, which are professional series, which even have like integrated touch functionality. They also support actually our ASUS dial, so that you can actually have control within different applications like Adobe Creative Cloud. Our Zen Beam series, which I've talked about, which are ultra portable and compact. They include a speaker. You can actually have an integrated option to be able to support vertical and horizontal based content. The Zen Beam Latte, right? Very compact base units as well. Great in terms of just being able to kind of put this in a room, be able to easily project out. These, because of the resolution, generally more targeted, I'd say, at video content. So definitely for streaming out from your applications, for YouTube stuff, great like that. We do have higher end portable projectors that of course have higher resolutions, which would be working well for actually rendering like websites and text and desktop productivity applications as well. But this new portable site helps to break down so many different options, kind of good, kind of high level spec and features. So if you're wondering a little bit about like, hey, what are all the different options that ASUS offers relative to portable displays? Well, guess what? They're broken down here for me. Like you said, travel and lifestyle, 2 business related models, 2 are gaming related models. Gaming models, keep in mind, right? 17 inches with 240 hertz, right? I mean, pretty amazing, right? In terms of that you could have that, for these type of options. So you can go ahead and check out all this great stuff. Many of these models are all available right now. And, starting price point, I think our entry level models come in at something like starting at like $140 and they go up from there. So really, I'm a huge, big fan. I right now have the XG16. It's one of like my go-to portable monitors. Definitely when I have to move around places. It's something I can easily stick in my backpack or a bag, and bam, I've always got a secondary display with me. It even has an ESS Saber DAC that's built into it. It's got, USB-C. It has micro HDMI, right? It's got all types of options there. So I'm a big fan. All right.
Okay, so there we go on that. All right, we're almost finished up here. I'm gonna just quickly touch on W790, and then I got just two quick networking updates. So let me go ahead and just bring these guys out of the way. Excuse me. Let me run through these guys so that we can go ahead and get those covered here. And this is going to be a great option. I would say these are going to be targeted for people that are on a limited budget or maybe live in a small environment. You know, a while back ago, now I'm lucky enough to, of course, be a homeowner, but in the past, you know, for a very long time, I lived in a 600 square foot apartment with me and my partner. You know, it was just me and her, and we lived in a small little apartment, so we didn't need massive coverage or anything like that when it came to Wi-Fi, but we did have a lot of devices in there, so it was still important to have a good, stable, reliable router solution. And so this would be great for, like, I think, a smaller environment, and also could still grow with you because you can support our ASUS AI mesh technology, where if you want to be able to go ahead and just add in another router, hey, you can do that easily and be able to take advantage of that. So if you guys know, we are really an industry leader when it comes to our networking product portfolio. We have everything from, of course, our Zen Wi-Fi series, which are going to be kind of pre-packaged mesh Wi-Fi solutions, to our ROG gaming series of routers and high-end enthusiast routers. We then have our upcoming expert Wi-Fi series, and of course we have our traditional just ASUS series routers, which we also are toying as also being an extendable router, because they all pretty much all support our ASUS AI mesh, which means that you can actually take another ASUS router and put them together to be able to actually create a mesh product. Some people kind of get confused, is that, you know, is mesh better than a traditional router? Actually, very much depends. Mesh in most situations actually would be worse than a traditional router if you're within an optimal, let's say, line of sight within the router, or not, let's say, line of sight, but in the signal range coverage space for the router. And why? The reason being is that for mesh, the way it works is that if I have one router and I have another router, so I have a mesh network, there you actually have to use a band to connect those two routers together. That is what's called a wireless backhaul. So if you had a dual band router, so you have like 2.4 and you have 5 gigahertz, one of those bands is immediately going to be lost. It is essentially gone. It is not available to you as a user. It is going to be used to connect that one node and that other node together. So if you had 5 gigahertz, let's say, or 2.4 gigahertz, it would probably be the 2.4 gigahertz. You would lose that 2.4 gigahertz band, and you would only be given the 5 gigahertz band available to you. And that's good, because that still could be a very stable and rich and high performing band. But from a performance perspective and for the number of devices, it'd be great to actually have both bands. So a lot of times, if you're in the optimal coverage zone for a router, you're going to maintain all bands, and you can actually have more flexibility for more devices and for better performance. Mesh, though, is going to be most favorable when you're going to be in challenging scenarios where maybe in the last mile. So, you know, our house almost about 3,000 square feet. You might have a situation where maybe in that last kind of portion of the house, you're not getting as much coverage as you want. Maybe that's where mesh would be useful, right? Because you could stabilize and extend the signal. So that is kind of where part of the value add occurs there. So here, the model we're going to touch on is going to be the RTAX57. This is only $140, so very reasonable price point. So if maybe you're, again, don't have a super large, demanding kind of wireless environment, you just want to be able to go to a simple, stable, reliable router that maybe you can also upgrade with a little bit over in the kind of coming years. This is a great choice, like I said, to be able to step up to Wi-Fi 6, be able to have a dual band, be able to have the AI mesh support, still have wireless connectivity options that are available to you, and also get a lot of the kind of the rich updates that ASUS offers over times in relation to our firmware and the ASUS Router app. The ASUS Router app is a great option in terms of controlling your devices and monitoring your network, from being able to easily prioritize devices, see what's being connected, rebooting your router, checking for software updates. All that can be done, and the app is available for both Android and iOS, so it is entirely agnostic in that regard. From a spec perspective, on the rear of the unit, it does actually have both LAN and Wi-Fi. So you are going to see right here, you're going to have 4 LAN ports. So you still have 4 LAN ports right there. You can actually have this unit work in different modes. So you could have it work in a media bridge mode. You could have it work in an AP mode. You could have it work in a traditional wireless mode. It does have a 1.7 gigahertz quad-core processor, which is quite a bit faster than maybe legacy Wi-Fi 5 routers, which might only be like a dual-core 600 megahertz processor. So it's going to be more performant and be able to provide you better speeds and overall better performance, especially if you're running more functions on the router. But again, $140.
nice little solid offering there if you're looking to be able to step up to an entry-level option. I think that this is a really solid choice for, like I said, maybe, like I said, single bedroom apartments, 2-bedroom apartments, smaller condominiums, or maybe smaller kind of single floor home environments. I think this would be a solid choice. No problems here. Okay. And if you want to step up to something higher end than this, maybe start to look at something like our AX82, right? The RTX82 or the 86S are nice kind of step ups, and that's where you can start to get to even higher performance. And also if maybe you got higher speed networking requirements, maybe like 2.5G LAN that you want, or 2.5 gig WAN. So if you got faster ISP service, that could be another option that would be good for you. Okay. Now, the other update here is going to be with the RPAX58. This is going to be a repeater extender, but it can also serve as an AI mesh node. So take, for instance, like maybe you buy that RTAX57 and then a year down the road, hey, I want to be able to easily add maybe more coverage. Well, you can just buy one of these guys, plug it into a jack there, you know, in terms of a power outlet in your home. It can be seen as an AI mesh node, and bam, it can work with any ASUS router, and you can extend your wireless coverage. Really, really simple. Literally, other than like couple minutes, you'd be able to get this up and running. Now, this is fully compatible with any router. Doesn't matter whether it's provided with your ISP, or if you've got, you know, any of those other companies, you decided to not, you know, get yourself an ASUS router. I'm sorry. Hopefully next time you will. But if you decided and you've got somebody else's router and you're just looking to extend the coverage, you can get this. This is a repeater. The disadvantage of repeaters is because they don't have an isolated backhaul, they're actually latching onto the signal. They kind of cut the bandwidth in half, so they don't provide as much bandwidth, but they can help to extend, like I said, the signal. And depending on the bandwidth that you're essentially connecting to from the band that you're going to utilize, you can still get a pretty good healthy level of speed, but it is very much dependent on what you're connecting to. This is going to be a dual band unit, so it does support both 2.4 and 5 gigahertz in that regard, and can easily be set up again within our ASUS router app. And again, only $100, and it's also got a nice clean design. So, you know, if you're a little bit more kind of stylistically conscious and you don't want like a traditional kind of router or node, really easy to be able to stick over there, maybe like in the living room or in the kitchen, in the office, or wherever the space might be, to be able to just go ahead and easily add a little bit more Wi-Fi range. Again, you can go ahead and do that through this RPAX58. Okay, and a great option. And this would be still compatible with Wi-Fi 5. So if maybe you've got just an older Wi-Fi router, and again, you're just looking to extend the coverage, you're happy with that, you don't want to make any changes, you could also extend Wi-Fi 5. This is backwards compatible, but it's ideally matched, of course, for working with a Wi-Fi 6 based device. Okay. And I will drop those in the chat there. So give me 1 second here. Nice price point. Yeah, I agree. I think both of those products are very reasonably priced. Good options right there for, like I said, people that they might have a little bit more limited budget, but they're just looking for a solid, proven Wi-Fi solution. You know, good options that you have available to you right there. See right here, would you mind sharing any news regarding the OLED, the PG27AQ DM coming to market? If when you can, when you can expect it in the EU? Hey, Wizardus, I can't tell you specifically on the EU because we cover ASUS North America, but generally the EU is probably going to be pretty close in alignment to us. I haven't noted that specifically. Again, when we have a specific release date and target, we will be posting that in our PCDIY group. So if you're not part of that, join that group and you'll find out. And then it would be featured as a listed item here in the PCDIY stream when we're coming to it. I can't tell you right now, we're looking to release it within this quarter, so we still have a little bit more. We're not at the end of February yet, and we still have March, so there'll be, I'd say, information in the coming weeks regarding its actual availability and release, and the price point, and kind of all those specific items. I would expect that the EU, especially like in some of the larger countries, are going to be pretty close into alignment. I don't know where in Europe you're at, so it can vary. If you want to get the exact specifics, you'd have to reach out to ASUS in your region. So take, for instance, like if you're in Germany, it would be ASUS Germany, and you'd have to ask them, right? You know, are you going to carry the model? What's the projected price point? All that specific information. But 100%, don't worry, we will cover this monitor when it actually is going to be releasing in terms of channel availability. But right now, our target is going to be within Q1 timeframe. My expectation is probably going to be sometime in late March is probably going to be availability. So it's going to be coming, not too distant future. The bigger question is, are you going to be team ultra fast IPS, right? So with something like our ROG Swift 360 Hertz, or are you going to be team OLED? Both are fantastic monitors for us. We're producing both of them, and I think they're great choices. I think if you're going to be doing a lot of gaming, and that's your predominant focus is gaming first and foremost, that OLED is absolutely outstanding for the contrast and for the pixel response. But I think if you're definitely splitting between a large amount of productivity, you do a lot of text, you do a lot of reading, do a lot of websites, a lot of email, you're checking out Reddit posts, you're doing all that stuff, I still think an LCD is a better option for the long term, not only in terms of the reliability, but text legibility and text rendering. Plus also the actual motion refresh rate is still going to be superior because the actual refresh rate is coming in more quickly. So from motion clarity perspective, I think it's a little bit better, but the pixel response is of course outstanding on OLED, and that contrast is outstanding as well. So two fantastic options, and they're going to be pretty much almost about the same price point, right? So it really comes into question, which one are you going to want, right? Are you going to be on the OLED side, or are you going to be on the LCD side? Pasquit says he's on the OLED gang for life. Then you've got your camp picked on you, and don't worry, we got you covered if you got there. We got everything from we have portable OLED, we have to 32-inch OLED, 27-inch OLED, 42, 48-inch OLED. We've got tons of OLED options. So if OLED is your thing, we got you covered, no worries. All right, so that takes care of all of our new products there. I'm just going to quickly touch right here on the two new quick WS boards, and then we were going to get ready to hopefully go into the PCDIY Builder Spotlight, guys, here. All right, so let me go ahead and pop that off right here. So here, I just want to go ahead and touch on our brand new W790 motherboard. So if you guys didn't, you guys can check out a full live stream that we did yesterday, which actually covers these motherboards in depth. And we talk also about the platform, about kind of understanding what's new within the essentially the new W series processors, these Xeon-based processors. So the W2400 and then the W3400. So, the long and short of it here is that these are all essentially now based on the new Golden Cove architecture, right, which is the same architecture that we saw that was introduced for 12th gen and also now kind of 13th gen series CPUs, but now for the workstation series CPUs. So you get a huge increase in terms of IPC and overall performance. Boost clocks, depending on the CPU, up to 4.8 gigahertz. You're going to get an extensive number of PCI lanes, the highest number of PCI lane configurations, up to 112 lanes, right, and PCI Gen 5 at that. And you can either be talking about quad channel or 8-channel memory, right? That's massive amounts of bandwidth. So here we have the W790E Sage SE, very, very stacked, right? So you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 PCI Express Gen 5 slots. You got 3 M.2 slots that are on the motherboard, including dual PCI Express Gen 5, 8 SATA ports, slim SAS ports, which can also be used for U.2 because they support PCIe, NVMe. That means you could have a 32 terabyte U.2 SSD, who cares about having to, stack multiple, 8 terabyte M.2 drives, which are more thermally constrained and more power constrained. U.2, U.3 is far superior in that regard. That's why it's my preferred option for an enthusiast storage device in a system. But you generally don't find those connections on most standard motherboards. In addition to that, of course, you've got your 10G based networking that's going to be on there. Here we have the essentially kind of the little brother to it, still an extremely high-end option. This one's more ideally designed to be paired with the W2400 series CPUs. So those are going to be 4-channel. They're going to feature a lower number of PCI Express lanes, but still PCI Express Gen 5, and both are going to still be DDR5 as well. And here you can see still ultra high densities. This picture just has it without the heat sinks, but it's not because the board doesn't have heat sinks. But you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 PCI Express Gen 5 slots on here, and you're also going to have robust M.2 expansion, where you can see you've got M.2 here, and then you've also got an M.2 right there, and you also have the slim SAS connectors also on this model as well. So still very robust, and both of these motherboards are going to be featuring 10G based connectivity. So you got that. You also have robust out of band management options. So if you want to be able to do, out of band monitoring to your motherboard, you can do that. Haven't finalized on the pricing. We should have that probably in about the next week or so. You should be able to see that information right here. You'll see more information definitely on this platform with full benchmarking from media and other sources in the not too distant future. So make sure to keep it tuned for that. So you can see some complexities in how you approach these platforms, because they're also going to be supporting overclocking for the first time in terms of the CPUs. Overclocking actually RDIMM memory, which is going to be very interesting. You're going to be able to see higher frequency ECC memory, that's kind of like a new thing as well. The socket is entirely new, so keep in mind that the coolers you'll have to get are going to be entirely new and specific to these platforms. You will see partners that are going to be producing custom blocks and cooling solutions here, so you can expect to see water cooling partners. We were already validating solutions, take for instance from like Noctua for these, but you're talking about really big power envelopes. You're talking about, you know, like 250 watts for like the W50 and then going up to like 350 watts and overclocked. Overclocked, you can imagine you know, the wattage configurations that you're looking at when you talk about overclocked configurations. And lastly here, let's just quickly take a look at the IO that you can see right here. So this is the Sage, so the higher end board, right? So 2, 4, 6. You got USB-C, 20 gigabits, 10G, 10G, and then the management. And then you've got here 8 ports, another 4 right there. So that's going to be 12. And then you've got another 20 gigabit USB on there as well. All right. So tons of options for you right there. Really exciting boards. And again, if you want to find out about all that great information, then you can definitely check out our dedicated live stream from yesterday where we talk about all of that good stuff. Again, the Xeon W2400 be up to 24 cores. That includes hyperthreading. There's no E-cores. So you have you have hyperthreading, but no E-cores. So you get all P cores. These are all just P cores, performance cores, right? So that would be 24 cores, and then you could hyperthread, right? And then you have 56 cores, so actually going up to 112 threads. And then in terms of your PCI lanes, as I noted, up to 112 PCI Express Gen 5 lanes, right? An increased link in terms of the DMI, so the chipset to the actual CPU as well. Ultra high memory channel configurations, right, with either quad channel memory or 8 channel memory. And one other last thing to keep in mind is you have some support for some new instruction technologies can really offer, I mean, really impressive performance. So you've got AVX 512 support, and you have these really new interesting AMX performance instructions, which in some applications from not having AMX be supported to having AMX supported, you could be seeing double to triple the performance. Plus it's really, really, really impressive. The W3400 also uses something called an EMEB interface to be able to actually kind of bring together all the cores to be able to have these really high performance based design. It's a very interesting design. It's different than kind of the ring bus architecture that you have under Raptor Lake and Alder Lake. So you have kind of like your ring bus, which is going to exist, like I said, on Alder Lake and like Raptor Lake. And here you would have a mesh bus. And the really cool thing is from an overclocking perspective, Intel is actually giving you the ability to mess around with all this stuff. So you've got a lot of different options in terms of kind of performance tuning available to you. So if you want to be able to kind of get into the nitty and gritty and be able to play around with different stuff, you can definitely do that. Do I have my clock tuning reference guide right here? Yeah, so I got it right here. So you're going to be able to do things like, you know, processor core tuning, AVX and AMX offsets, mesh tuning, turbo boost frequency for 2.0 and 3.0, a lot of different stuff like that. Just keep in mind that for the CPUs, it will have to have the X designation for it to be an overclock SKU. Okay. HO Computer says, I want to see a watt meter with a full loaded board. Yeah, that's going to be pretty beastly. It's definitely going to be, we can't fully go into those numbers because I think that that's going to fall under the review embargo information, right? So in the future, you'll be able to see that. But definitely, you can expect, like I said, with the CPUs alone, and then you talk about GPU configurations, you're definitely going to have very performant-based cooling. So yeah, OC memory with ECC. Yeah, so keep in mind that the memory here is not the same memory. It's not the same DDR5 memory that you're utilizing for AMD and for Intel platforms, right? This is going to have to be RDIMM. So you're essentially talking about ECC memory. So there'll be a new class of memory that are available, and even with XMP profiles. So these kits aren't actively going to be available. Like always too, you have to account how overclocking can void your warranty, and you have to account for, you know, if that's an enthusiast pursuit that you want to essentially account for. Right. The default memory specification for this platform is 4800 MT. And then as always, like it is just for standard desktop platforms, rank, density, and population will affect the memory speed, right? So generally the higher the rank, the higher the density, the more the population, the actual speed will go down. But 4800 MT is the default. But on this platform, there's already confirmation and validation at higher memory speeds through overclocking that will be supported. Some people did ask about like, hey, what can we expect to kind of see for some coolers? There have been coolers that already been announced in terms of some cooler configurations. So I just want to kind of show a couple of the options here of like, hey, what would we have to be kind of looking for? One, you have to make sure to look for the sockets. correctly. So let me go ahead and see if I can bring this information up here. So an example right here is our friends over at Noctua. They have like the NHU14S, which is going to be the 4677. So this is designed for essentially this platform, right? And for the CPU package size, for everything around that. So this would be an example of the cooler that you would be able to utilize, take for instance on this platform. Now there'll be other cooling solution providers that will also have compatible platforms, compatible coolers for this platform, but you do need to make sure that it's designed for that socket. So 4677, okay? So that is going to be the critical part in terms of what you need to account for, but that is an example of, let's say, one of the cooling solutions. In terms of the chassis, you know, there's a wide range of different chassis. Something you're going to have to be looking at larger chassis for sure. So things like, you know, maybe a Thermaltake Core W100, Silverstone G07. Lian Li has the Odyssey X case, right? There's of course other companies out there too, like in the kind of the workstation and server field, like Kenbro, right? That also manufacture products, right? That, you know, could be interoperable and compatible as well. Okay. All right. So I think that should cover us on that side. All right, very, very cool. So I think that covers everything in terms of all our new products here. So I have almost used all the time, but I am going to definitely do some PCDIY Builder Spotlight here. So I do want to go ahead and take care of that. So give me 1 second here and bring that up. I don't know. This is going to take me a second, guys. Going to need to actually pull down maybe one or two right here. I do also want to give a quick little bit of a plug right here on two promotions that we have going on. So right now on Newegg, we've got the Asus ROG Strix. This is going to be the XG43UQ. It's on sale right now, so it's $100 off. This is going to be a 4K monitor. This is the Xbox edition. It's actually, I think this is the one that has actually like a full white back design. Yeah, this one's pretty cool. It's got two individually kind of 10-watt speakers in there. It comes with a remote in there. It's actually supports a much higher brightness than standard. It's not a full array local dimming based display, but you do have up to a 1000 nits. Very color accurate, great color performance on this display, so you can legitimately use it like a normal kind of content screen to be able to view content, but also as a gaming monitor. Supports a high refresh rate option, HDMI 2.1. Really, really cool. Just option right there. Again, $100 off. So normally $899, right now $799 in terms of its overall price point. So I'm going to go ahead and drop that one in the chat. And then also on the kind of ultra refresh gaming side, we've got the ROG Swift PG259QNR. So this is, of course, our ultra fast until we get to our next even faster monitor, right? Our 540 hertz monitor. This is the fastest, right? So this is 360 hertz, 1080p with an ultra fast IPS based display, dual voltage driver technology for really consistent pixel response across the entirety of the display, dedicated G-Sync module, and the NVIDIA Reflex Latency Analyzer, which is really cool to be able to actually measure your responsiveness in terms of system latency in your game. And this Q&A version does come actually with the C clamp. So you actually get that in the box along with the traditional base. And so this is actually a great price right here, $100 off, so $299. If you really want a really color accurate display, super sharp, super smooth, and really a great option just for that competitive FPS gaming environment, this is definitely a really, really great option. And like I said, at $299, that's a really great price point. So two really cool promos right there for you guys. Let me go ahead and drop those in the chat right there. Somebody asking, is there any more Raptor Lake motherboards in the pipeline? So I'm assuming you mean like any more Z790 based motherboards. So I already just announced two, right? Those two, the ROG Strix -A DDR5 and the Tough Gaming DDR5 variants. And then we will also be having essentially the Apex come back in terms of availability for March, where it was originally just a limited production run and it sold out and we weren't going to produce any more, but we've had so many people that want it. We're going to produce more of the Apex, so we'll have more of the Apex in March. But beyond that, there's no other updates that we have planned. But like anything, as always, if there's something new, we will be talking about it in the Asus PCDIY group and here on the streams. All right, let me go ahead and bring up our PCDIY spotlight. So let me go ahead and bring in our submission form. Somebody said Apex. Yeah. Choosing a 360 hertz. Yeah, that's the question, right? Which one would you get? I think for me, I love, of course, OLED, but I still think for me, I would probably get our ROG Swift our ROG Swift 360 Hz 1440p based monitor. And the main reason why is, for me, I still do so much in terms of like text and email, and care about the sharpness of the pixels. Like, that's the thing, the OLED subpixel structure, it's not going to be as sharp for text clarity, and that's just because they use it's a different type of option. And also the SDR brightness is so much better on a traditional display. So I love my display to even brighter. I'm very happy with the contrast already on a good quality LCD. The color gamut performance can actually be equally as good. So really the main benefit is going to be, I'd say, pixel response, which you're already going to be competitive with an ultra fast IPS, and then contrast. Contrast will still be superior on OLED, but for me, because I care equally and much about my desktop productivity, like I said, web pages, text, things that I'm reading and looking at on screen, I'm going to favor an LCD. And also, I don't have to be worried at all about any type of burn-in, right? With OLED, there is technologies that are integrated to help to mitigate that, but that's where, like I said, the use case scenario is going to be important, right? Like, what are you doing in terms of your system to do that? And so somebody is wondering if they, like, hey, this is the monitor that I'm talking about. So, excuse me, this is the one I just showed here, but let me actually show the 1440p LCD. Yeah, let me bring it up right here. Guys are stopping me from the PCDIY Builder Spotlight. All right. Here we go. So this is the other display, right? So this is the ROG Swift 360 Hz PG27AQ. We also have the 240 Hz, which is still a really good value too. Also at, I think, $799. So, you know, it's about like $300 less, $350 less. It's still a really, really, really good option. But this would be my choice. This would be the monitor I would pick if I was picking which one I would want versus this or the OLED, right? This is just my personal preference. This would be the monitor I would go with. What is the 360 radiator called? I'm not sure what you mean by 360. Do you mean one of our coolers? So we have two coolers. This one is the ROG Gen 2, but we also have the new ROG. So we have two different 360 AIO cooling solutions. So the ROG is with the new circle pump, and then the ROG Gen is with the kind of the square rectangular pump, right? So those are both the two options that we have. Yeah. So we have the ROG Gen 2 and we have the ROG 3. I will put links there in the chat for that if somebody is interested. Let me bring up our PCDIY submission form. And again, for anybody that is checking us out on the stream, if you guys want to submit your system to be featured in terms of our PCDIY Builder Spotlight, we would love to feature your system. All you need to do is be part of our PCDIY group. And once you join our PCDIY group, there's actually a submission form. It allows you to go ahead and just fill out a little information about your build, and allows you to go ahead and upload the pictures, and you're good to go. That 360 AIO cooler, this is the ROG Gen 2, like I said. So we have the ROG Gen 2. We have also the standard version, which is the one that comes with Noctua fans. There's no RGB on the fans. It's just Noctua IPPC fans. And then we also have the ROG 3. The ROG 3 comes in white and it comes in black. Okay, so those are the two 360 coolers that we have. But we also, actually, I didn't note it, but we do also have the ROG STRIX LC2. So the LC2 is also a little bit cheaper than both of those because it doesn't have a custom screen. It has just a fixed screen. So we have actually a total of three. We have three 360 AIO coolers, not counting white and black. Does the radiator work with AM4? Yes, both of those models work with AM4, AM5, so they're both fully compatible. And is the white ROG Gen? No white ROG Gen. If you want white, get the ROG. The ROG looks absolutely stunning in white. It is a beautiful looking cooler, and we offer that in white. And we also have the, show you guys right here. We do have the Strix LC2 in white. So if you want a white cooler, these are some of the absolute best white coolers on the market. And right now, we're still also the only manufacturer that has an 8th gen Asetek based pump solution in terms of that as well. So Strix LC2 white. Yeah, here we go. So this is the ROG Strix LC2. This one is in white. So really beautiful, really clean, really nice in white. And then here is the ROG 3 in white. So we have both of those are available to you in white if you're interested in white-based coolers. All right. Now let me finish getting to the Builder Spotlight submission form here. Okay.
Which one is cold? I don't know what you mean by which one is cold. I mean, they're all great coolers. So if you're talking about like, is one, you know, kind of better? The overall performance between the Ryujin 2 and the Ryu 3, it's almost effectively the same. You're not really going to see a kind of performance delta. I would say technically the Ryujin 2 might have a little bit of an advantage from the perspective that it has the VRM assist fan, so it could provide a little bit more airflow kind of downward to the socket and to kind of the surrounding area. But keep in mind the 8th gen Asetek based pump also is going to have essentially more internal fluent, a larger cold plate, right? So it has some performance based design elements that are on there. So you know, they're both really good, and I featured both of them in our overclocking live stream, so they're great, you know, whether you want to run stock or overclocked. But effectively, I think it really comes down more so towards picking the model that makes more sense for you, right? So pick the model that you think is going to complement the look and feel that you want for your system. And, you know, based on our polling, it's really kind of split. Like 50% of people really like the square design, and then 50% of people really like the circle design. So which one, if you guys are checking us out here, do you like the circle pump or do you like the square pump? Which is your preferred design in terms of that, okay? So let's see, first here, we got our first submission, and this one is gonna be, one sec here. Let me get his image in there. Oh. Okay, what's the name of this build? So this is gonna be Beast, no, is that the name? Yeah, Beast Ripper, and Beast Ripper by Ken Chong. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. Beast Ripper, Ken Chong. All right, here we go. Let's go ahead and check this one out here. And what was the feedback from the people here? So we got Tech says my Ryujin 2 keeps my 13900K is cool. Definitely, yep, no problems there. Tech says he prefers square. And the other cool thing on the Ryujin 2 is you can do you can do different orientation. So this pump head is magnetic, so you can remove it, and you could go vertical or you can do it horizontal. So you can go either option. Miguel, he says he prefers square. Sumin, you gotta love Sumin, right? Sumin says both. He likes both the circle and the square. Got somebody new on Facebook. Hi, thanks for joining us on this square. And we got H2O Computer saying square for me, right? And Johnny's also saying square. So interesting, because in our general polling, we've seen that it's about 50%, but at least for viewers here on the stream, it looks like we got definitely more Ryujin fans here on the stream that like the square head. I will say it does have like a really nice kind of symmetry, kind of how it fits in with the kind of the angles of the board, while like a circle head, it leaves, I think, a little bit more exposed, so you see a little bit more kind of around it, right? But the Ryu is kind of lifted, and it still has a really nice head pump design. So, you know, it just comes down to, again, your preference, right? All right. Let's go ahead and check our build out here, and give me a second. I'm gonna take a little drink of water. He said, I didn't see the round one. Okay. All right, I'm gonna show one more time because I've got the images already here, but let me just go ahead and show the round one more time here. So this is the round, this is the actual Ryujin, and again, the Ryujin comes in both a white and black version. So this is a vacuum coated lens, so really, really nice, clean and bright. This is full aluminum metal knurled housing. Really, really nice finish and design here. So circle. And this is also, you know, we were the first ones ever to actually produce a AIO with a screen on it. So if you didn't know, now you know. All right, let's go ahead and check out Ken's build over here. All right, so we got Beast Ripper. Let's take a look at Beast Ripper. Okay, interesting. So right off the bat, we can see something pretty cool. This is actually in our Tough Gaming GT501. We've got a chassis. You can get this in white and you can get it in black. It's one of actually my favorite chassis. I really like the feel. It's also built really well. It's got cold rolled steel, which is quite a bit thicker than like aluminum. So it has a really nice premium feel to it on the outside. It also has handles. We can see very interesting elements right here. Really nice clean management. It's just one single cable runned up there for the tough gaming graphics card. You can actually see because of the cold roll steel, it's quite rigid and really gives good stability, where you can see that there's no brace even in here, and it's still quite nice. So a very interesting platform, because take a look at what we've got in here. It doesn't look like a traditional board, right? Because you can see where the memory is positioned. We also have a Ryujin 2 in here. We can see right here, built for pros. I know this is going to be a WS based motherboard that we've got in here. So we've got lots of PCI expansion. Maybe that's why it's called Ripper, right? Beast Ripper. Some very cool kind of accented fans that we have in here as well. And then we've also got a tough gaming graphics card. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue this journey. Here's a little bit of the angle design, so you can see that front facade. Really great for airflow, this chassis. Really nice, open, really easy to build in because you got a lot of space in here. You can also do water-cooled builds in there. If you want to check out some cool, tough gaming builds, check out Snef. Snef's Instagram or his Facebook. You can check out some really cool builds that he's done here. Also, Rhodes PC has done a really cool build in this GT501 as well. Really nice in terms of that. And now there we go. We got the RGB. Okay. Pretty cool. I'm really liking this. This is actually, I wasn't expecting, like how I feel. Like I'm generally more of a fan of gradients or a single color, but the RGB definitely adds some cool, vibrancy and color pop in here. So it looks pretty cool. I'm definitely feeling it. I don't have any problems with it. It would have been cool to maybe see kind of just like what a gradient or fixed color might have been in here, but it's definitely really nicely, cleanly done. In terms of the cable management and the layout, definitely there's nothing to contend or compete here or criticize, right, in terms of kind of his layout choice. Really nice, just routing paths smoothly in there, no heavy obstructions, just nicely laid out and clean and bright, right? And you can definitely see they put RGB all in the front here, on the top, and then also in the rear. And the great thing too is that you don't have to overcomplicate it, right? You've got a really solid kind of airflow setup in here. You got a lot of flexibility. This is a WS board, so there's actually an accessible M.2 that's right here, so you can still easily access that. Just went ahead and routed all his cables right here through the grommets, essentially through the open routing paths right there. So you're all good to go on that side. And then that cool side profile with it lit up, looks clean, nice. This is my kind of build. Clean, simple, well laid out, nothing to overtly kind of criticize. Really nicely done. Again, would have loved to maybe see what like a nice little color gradient is. Maybe like orange. I think orange kind of been maybe kind of cool to hear. Maybe like an orange and white, especially with our new Armored Crate update where you can run like a 2-pattern gradient. I think that would have been kind of cool to be able to see there. But overall, I'm digging it. What do you guys think of the build? Let's go ahead and take a look. See, I want to bring up his submission form. So give me 1 second to bring up his submission form. And we'll go back to his system right here. All right, bring it. There we go. Got his image up. Okay, and let's see here. Okay, so this is from Ken Chong. Not his first build. And does the build have a theme? It's called Asus Beast Ripper. 3 words to describe the build: Beast Ripper. So only 2 words, but so it's definitely, we can tell, a Beast Ripper. And then this is a this is a very beastly system. We've got an AMD Ryzen Threadripper Pro 5975X, right? So then keep in mind, guys, this is a 64 core, 64 thread CPU, right? 32 cores, right? 64 threads. So 64 thread CPU. This is running on the Asus WS, the Pro WS model, the WRX80 Siege motherboard. So this is very similar to kind of the Sage motherboard I just showed, right, that we have for our Intel platform, but this is the AMD based version, right? So yeah, very, very impressive board right here. And then you've got a tough gaming RTX 4090 graphics card, the OC edition he has in there. He's also powering it with a 1200 watt power supply, actually the Thor Platinum 2, the new one that we just talked about, the 1200 watt Platinum 2. Then the Ryujin 2 360, and this is inside the Tough Gaming GT501 chassis. And then he's running, 64 gigabytes of memory, 3600 MT DDR4 based memory. And then there's a Samsung 980 PCIe NVMe M.2 SSD, Cooler Master
MF120 prismatic fans. There's 7 of those that are in there, all set up within this build. Total price point in this build is about $8,800 in terms of the price point. What aspect are the most proud of the build? Can say the most powerful consumer rig I ever built is a Threadripper with a RTX 4090. Yeah, absolutely beastly system. Is there anything they would like to change about the build? Is future add on a storage drive and maybe max out the RAM slots? I don't know that you need more memory than 64 gigs, but then again, if they're a Threadripper user, maybe they're actually using it, right? Because these platforms are really designed for professional creators and developers, right? Took him about a day to put together the system, and he's using it for professional workflow. So workstation, animation, rendering, Unreal Engine, and Blender. So definitely he is using that system in that GPU. He's a big fan of actually Armoury Crate, loves to be able to easily control his fans, his RGB lighting, and monitor his system and sync all the lighting up together. Overall, man, Ken, you get a thumbs up from me, man. It's nice, it's clean, it's well laid out, it's going to be cool, quiet, and performant. Overall, just a nice clean build. I think, yeah, exactly. Nice clean build, right? Lord Razzle Dazzle says, nicely built. I would have gone for a solid color for the fans and RAM, but obviously that's a personal preference thing. Yeah, again, I think I would have really loved to see maybe a 2-color gradient, especially within our latest update that we just put in for Armoury Crate. I think it would have been really cool maybe to see like a white to a transition color. So maybe like white to like an orange, I think could be kind of cool. Orange is a little bit hard to pull off in photos, and of course, you know, the popular would be maybe more on that like purple or kind of that white, purple and white, or kind of blue and white, or purple, white and blue kind of vibe. But either which way, it looks fantastic, man. Serious thumbs up. Very, very cool build. All right, let's go ahead and I think we can get in another one. So let's go ahead and get in another here. All right, let me see here. Give me 1 second, guys. All right, so that was Beast Ripper. And give me 1 second here. And while I'm going ahead and pull this up, if anybody has any other questions, feel free to go ahead and drop them in the chat, and I will see if I can go ahead and answer them while I bring this up here. Ooh, I think this is Mike's. This is Mike's build. This is a pretty cool build here. Yeah, it didn't have all of the, I don't know how many more images they're in here, but this one's a pretty interesting one. So yeah, so let me go and bring this one up here. Okay. Let me see if I can get everything up for this one. All right, yeah, I think I can get all of the images here. So this is from MP Customize. From Mike P. Very cool builder and modder. I definitely will premise that he's actually a builder. I would say a builder and a modder. And definitely does really cool. He's got a really kind of cool, distinctive styling. I'm always a fan, I think, of builders that kind of I think take the time and effort to try to have a kind of thematic style, right, that is unique to them, and, you know, impart a look and feel, right, that helps to create an identity, right? And so we had Ben, I think, with us a little bit earlier. A great thing is like, that's a good example of that, right? Where, you know, Ben, definitely when you take a look at his Bens, you can kind of get a sense from him. And even H2O Computers, Mike from H2O Computers, as another example where he's done like little touches within his builds where definitely I think that you kind of, when you see his builds, you kind of know that you're taking a look at an H2O Computers build. And it's hard because sometimes, you know, there are some things that can be very consistent between builds, and the cleaner or simpler times of build too, it can be a little bit more hard to kind of know the identity from those systems. Soren from Nordic 3D Design and Snef definitely also have kind of hallmark kind of designs. AK Mod, there are people that I think that do impart kind of a specific look and feel to their systems. But let's go ahead and take a look here. All right, so this is going to be from MP Customized. This is called Synchro. Oh, all right. So right off the bat, we can already see that we got something a little bit different going on here, right? Somebody asking a quick question right here. Michael saying GR7 by the end of the month. I don't know by the end of this month, but hopefully we should be pushing it out, I think, by the end of this month, and then availability will probably be in the beginning or mid-March. But yes, the Hyperion, I would expect it to be really before the end of Q1, and I think that we will have the availability announcement shortly, probably, like I said, for the beginning of March timeframe. Okay. All right. So Yeah, so this is from MP Customized from Synchro, and we can see already right off the bat, we've got some really cool, interesting things. So we've got a white chassis, a nice full customized. Now look at this front right here. It actually looks like it's serving not only as a functional aesthetic element, but we can actually see, is it possibly integrated as part of, I don't know, is that part of the distro? This looks interesting. So I'm assuming, because that looks like vents. It doesn't look like necessarily part of the rad, so I think that's just aesthetic, but that's okay. That's already very interesting, very different. Now, wow, so we went inside. We can see that we went into a whole nother kind of a colorway and color design. Here we can see that we've got another actually high-end enthusiast desktop platform right here. This actually looks like our Rampage board, the Omega board. So this was actually one of our later generation X299 based motherboards. You can see fully densed up, massive block right here. And this is actually, you can see right here, this looks like it's the mono. So this is actually covering the CPU and the VRM, which definitely for this platform is required because you were pulling so much power, especially if you're overclocking it. You want to keep that VRM and that CPU really as cooled as possible. Running a high density memory configuration, some really cool, nice, clean black tubing that's in there as well. Hopefully that we got some other shots here in the middle. So here you can definitely see it's all blacked out. So not that's super clean. I just wish I could see a little bit more on the inside. So I love though the dual kind of color blocking approach here that we have, right? So you've got the white on the outside and then the black, and then just a little bit of that pop there from Intel. You can see a little bit ROG design. This is an inverted base setup, so you can see that you've got the motherboard down at the bottom, and then you've got the graphics card there at the top. And then we can see right here, oh, this really kind of cool integration. This is really cool. Oh, look at how that ties through. That's pretty slick. That's pretty cool. I like that. And I really dig the color. The pink kind of synthwave color is really nicely done right there. And I think that we do have a little bit of a reel that he did include here. So let me go ahead and see if I can bring that one up here. Yeah, so I think, yes, we have it here. Let me go ahead and see if I can get it in here. Give me 1 second. Okay. It's going to be a little bit small there, but let's see if we can see what comes up right there. Oh, that's looking pretty cool. Oh, so yeah, we can definitely see right there. Yep. On that design right there, all in the side panel. That's really cool. I like how it extends the lighting through. That's really cool. And those runs, some really cool and interesting runs. So we can actually see already some of the specs right here, right? Asus ROG, it's a Rampage, right? With a 980, a 9800X, 64 gigs worth of RAM, 2 terabytes. WD Black M.2 drive, then a 3070 FE base card, and then all the custom water cooling is all from Bits Power that's in there. It's a really cool kind of distinct design. That lighting, I wish we would have had another shot in there that would have been able to show that photo off a little bit more clearly in terms of that actual setup with all that work that kind of went in there on the inside. Let me see if I can find if there's another photo that shows that. Oh, so I think here there's another shot. Let me see if we can bring that one up. Let's see, killer layout, pulled off perfectly. Yeah, I think I would definitely agree, right? He goes, love that setup aesthetically. Yeah, I definitely agree. That sounds definitely like an H2O computers, right? That was such a nice board. Yeah, the Extreme Omega, it was really a really cool looking board. All of our boards are pretty much all monochrome, but definitely it had a really kind of cool distinct look. It was one of my favorites. This actually used a different type of design where we actually had an MVCM finishing process. It was really beautiful. And I know some people are not always on the RGB, but this right here, like this is the Extreme. He's got the Omega. The Omega came after this one, but this was one of my favorite designs right here, where this was a translucent, and when it wasn't translucent, it looked like pure chrome. Absolutely looks stunning. One of my favorite designs that we did. And the one that he had, right, I think was, let me go back to that, is it should be, I think, what was it, the Omega? Yeah, so he had the Rampage Omega. So that was the version after that, which kind of went in the whole other direction and kind of even blacked it out even more. So you'll see it right here, where you had the cool, really design, right? Just really clean, super black, had a really dense black plate, right? Really clean, Really, really nicely done, but beautiful board as well. So that is going to be the board that is featured in there. Really, really clean, really cool. I absolutely love the design aesthetic on this one, right? But that's a kind of example what the extremes are kind of known for, right? So let me go ahead and bring up this builder spotlight right here, form, and we'll bring back up over his images. So give me 1 second. And I don't even know which image to kind of put up there. Maybe I'm going to have to put up a couple to kind of show off at least some elements there, because I don't have all, we don't have like a more kind of complete internal image. Oops. One second here. Where did I put that file? Did I not bring that one up? Oh, okay. I got it right here. There we go. All right, no problem. Okay, here we go. So let's see here. So for submission form, right? So MP customized, right? Of course, this is definitely not his first build. He's been a builder and modder for a long time. This was a sponsored build. Does the build have a theme from bright white to all black, divided by an external floating distro plate? So so that external part is actually a distro plate. That's really, really cool. That is quite distinct in terms of the overall design. 3 words to use to describe the build is unique, original, and renewing. And I definitely agree. It's very rare to see something like that has like an external type of distro plate, right? You're usually always going to see the distro on the inside, and then also the contrast, right? A lot of times you don't necessarily see such a heavy contrast, but I really look at it. It's almost like evokes like certain types of like neon kind of noir type of designs, like a Blade Runner-esque kind of design, where you've got the contrast between those heavy neon colors, and then you've got something much, much darker on the inside. So I think it's pretty cool. Name of the build is Synchro. And then in terms of the core hardware, it's the Rampage 6 Extreme Omega with, like I said, that Intel Extreme Edition Series CPU, 64 gigs of RAM, the Trident Z. There's a 2 terabyte Western Digital Black M.2 PCIe NVMe M.2 drive, 3070 FE card in there, and then the Seasonic Synchro case with the Connect Hub powered by Cable Mods, all custom. Water cooling hardware is all from Bits Power. It's about a $5,000 budget that was for the system. What aspect were they most proud of is the external floating distro plate without O-rings or screws. Wow. Very, very, very cool. Is there anything they would change about the build? Is yes, put in a dedicated Quadro NVIDIA GPU as the main workstation, I guess graphics card, right, for CAD purposes. That would make sense, right? Definitely for this type of platform, if it was more for workstation, taking advantage of the ISV certification drivers, the better floating point precision, and probably more VRAM as well, right, for certain of those CAD applications. About 2 months worth of work in terms of, I guess, the design, the development, and then also fully getting it all together. System is used for CAD, 3D rendering, and video editing. His favorite feature or function was the water-cooled VRM and the DIMM.2. DIMM.2 design is really nice to be able to just add the M.2 SSDs, put them into that slot, and be good to go, right? You don't have to worry about kind of having slots underneath certain portions of the motherboard, taking out the graphics card, things like that. And 8 banks for memory, not widely seen on motherboards these days. Well, now we're back again where we do have it, of course, with the new WS series motherboards, man. Mike, absolutely a fantastic job. Really, really looks cool. Really love the way that you pulled this off. Very, very cool design. Let me see right here. He goes, bring this design back, right? Yeah. Okay. That's some good feedback, right? I gave my Rampage Extreme to my son, and I still have the Omega build in my game room. Love those motherboards. Man, thanks for the feedback. That's really cool. Well, that's definitely a nice treat for your son to be able to get such a cool board. I mean, even by today's standards, depending on the generation, it's still a very feature-rich and really, really nice board and build, I'm assuming, that he's got. So that's pretty sweet right there, right? So Paskowitz saying, it was the Extreme Alpha 2 that had the chrome cover over the chipset. That's my favorite ROG board. Yeah, the chrome covers accents. That one is really, really nice too. I kind of got that hard kind of finished design, right, between that kind of more black and then you got those chrome accents. Really, really, really nice. Yeah. It gets always kind of interesting, you know, which is that kind of right board for you. Sometimes it's a little bit based on the platform, on what you were able to build with, what you were able to touch and feel. So many kind of different elements impart kind of, you know, what people get excited about between which board is, you know, kind of their favorite, right, from kind of one or the other, right? All right, I think we're going to do one more, guys, and then we'll get ready to
wrap this stream up here. Again, I know we're catching up a little bit from last week, and excuse me, from the last 2 weeks of not having that. But we're going to go ahead and go with one more, and we're going to go with one. I don't know how many of you guys are fans of The Mandalorian, right? It's season 3, right? It's coming, right? Are you excited? Are you ready? I just finished watching Andor. I loved it. I thought Andor was fantastic. I think it might be maybe my favorite. I don't know. It's season 1 of Mandalorian was really, really good. I liked it. I liked actually a lot of the different stories, but I'm excited. So we're going to see what happens here. Let me go ahead and I guess, if you guys get anything anyways, I guess you should be getting hopefully here that there's a little bit of maybe some subtle theme here that's going to happen with this build. Now, if you guys haven't checked out, ROG PC did a really, really cool build that was actually Mandalorian themed. It was really, really actually cool and interesting. So you guys can actually check out a more kind of full one there. But let's go ahead and check this out. This is from Cirrus. Cirrus Lawson, and this is called Strix Wars. I love this. The name of the build is called Strix Wars. This is awesome. Okay, here we go. So this is Strix Wars. Okay, let's go ahead and take this out from Cirrus. All right, very, very cool. So let's go ahead and just see. So Paskowitz says, yeah, Andor. Yeah, I thought the pacing was really good. Maybe some people might have felt it, but I thought it was one of the best kind of advantages to show kind of the background story of really kind of developing of what's causing the rebellion, right? The feel, the dynamics, and kind of, the struggles that get made from different people at different perspectives, right? From the Empire to the rebellion narrative, right? And kind of how it's tying in together. So I thought from that were really, really good. H2O Computers was also, both series were so good, and Andor was amazing. Yeah, so very, very cool. So cool. Yeah, so we got some definite fans there. I'm also excited, right? There's a season 2 that they've now confirmed that's going to be coming out for that, and now we can look forward to like I said, season 3 for The Mandalorian, and Obi-Wan too was really was good too. I really like that one too. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look here and see Strix Wars Cirrus. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look here. All right, so I got a very, very cool little theme right there. Of course, we can see where this Strix Wars is coming from, right? And we can see we got the little use of the stickers, right? For those who dare, right there from the ROG sticker pack. We looks like this is, I think this is a Corsair. I don't know if it's a 4000 or 5000D in there, and we can see we got an ROG Strix graphics card. We got the Herculex in there. I'm liking the green and blue color scheme. Again, I like kind of fixed color schemes that have a focus to them, so I'm feeling that vibe. When we go and we jump inside in there, nicely laid out, clean and well executed right there. Nice clean cable combs and bridges, keeping everything nice and tight. A cool little customized logo right there for the actual pump in terms of the AIO cooling solution, and then like split up between the alternating between there, the green and I think it's white, or is it blue? It's a little bit hard. I think it's white. Yeah, it's white there in terms of the alternating color scheme right there. Got Grogu, and then you've got your Herculex right there. Just adding in that nice little bit of flair, nice little accent. It's cool to be able to fill in that little space, and of course also be able to provide the support there for the card. We pull back, and definitely I think it plays really nicely. I think that green and that white balance comes across really cleanly. I'm digging the overall vibe. I'm digging the overall layout. Not too complicated, not too complex, and a nice kind of color theme. Again, simple, well executed, well defined. I've got nothing to complain about here. I think it's a great looking build, and I think it definitely hits the nail on the head in terms of Strix Wars. Let me go ahead and just bring up 2 images right there, and we can go ahead and bring up the submission form here. So give me 1 second. And I'll bring up his submission form. There we go. All right, got it right there. And we'll get his image back in there. All right, there we go. All right, so this is going to be from Cirrus Lawson, Strix Wars. So this was not his first build. It wasn't a sponsored build, of course. Does his build have a theme? Is ROG Strix and Star Wars, right? 3 words to describe the build is Strix, Corsair,
and Star Wars. Does the build have a name? Strix Wars. I'm definitely liking that. In terms of the core hardware we've got right here is that we've got an ROG Strix Z590-E gaming Wi-Fi board, a 10700K that he's got in there, assuming probably got a little bit of overclock with a solid board like that, and of course a 10700K ROG Strix Herculex, and that's supporting of course his ROG Strix 3080 OC edition base graphics card. Absolutely love the design, especially in the horizontal mount there with that nice cool RGB light bar that it has on there. That's a cool definitely setup that we've got. About $3,000 was his overall budget for his build, so definitely hits that nice balance between performance but not super crazy expensive, right? What aspect of the build were they most proud of in terms of getting it up was overall cable management. Definitely cable management is on point, nice and clean, good use of cable combs, right, in terms of just keeping those bends nice and clean, right? Is there anything they would change about the build? No, they're definitely happy with it. Took him a few hours to put together the system. He uses it predominantly for gaming, video editing, making some music. Cool, making some music, and he likes to, of course, be playing a couple of titles, so some Cyberpunk, some Modern Warfare 2, and some GTA 5. All right. His favorite function or feature that he has on there is the P and Q mode on the GPU. So the performance and the quiet mode on the graphics card. That is a cool little feature and function that we have on there. It's actually one that I helped to develop with our team in terms of feeding feedback. Originally, years and years ago, was saying, hey, can we have an easy way to be able to give people the ability to toggle in terms of a quieter fan profile, but without having to even do anything in terms of a custom fan curve? And that's when we actually did that quick little button. So that's pretty cool, right? All right, very, very cool. Yoda, yes, that's correct, right? Is this stream weekly or monthly, as I have problems receiving notifications? It is a weekly stream. So we didn't have it the last 2 weeks because I had to take my dog in, and I had a little bit of time off that I hadn't taken for a long time. But yes, normally we have it every Friday at 3 p.m. So you can join us again next Friday at 3 p.m. for our stream. And also we do have our graphics card stream, which happens on Wednesdays. And you can also watch out for notifications. We'll be doing some more kind of occasional lives on some of our social platforms. So there might be AMAs on Twitter, or maybe some Instagram lives and some other content. But definitely for sure, we always have the ASUS PCDIY weekly stream on Fridays at 3 p.m. And agreed, yeah, nice cable mod that we got present right there. So overall, man, Strix Wars gets a thumbs up from me, man. Serious. Clean, well executed, love the color scheme, love the theme overall, fantastic job, man, and thanks for being Team RG, Team Strix, definitely gets a thumbs up from me. So with that, guys, I think we're going to be wrapping up the stream, and we're going to be ready to close things out. Hopefully everybody is going to enjoy their weekend, stay safe, stay healthy, have a good Friday night, have a good Saturday and Sunday. If you guys are off on Monday, take care, take it easy, enjoy the rest of your day, and if you guys are not part of our ASUS PCDIY group, make sure to go ahead and join it. The link is in the description if you're checking us out on Facebook or you're checking us out on YouTube. If you're watching us on demand, thanks so much. And again, feel free to go ahead and tag me inside the group, or Jake, our other admin there in the PCDIY group, if you have any questions or comments or feedback for all things ASUS. With that, take care, take it easy, enjoy the rest of your day.